And Doug stops the car in the middle of the highway, like literally in the middle of the highway, with cars going.
Oh my God.
And Doug just goes, dude, you better pull the fucking money out right now. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I'm not. I'll stay right here. Well, fuck it, I don't care. Pull the money out. And he's like, you're crazy. And then he's like, I might be crazy, but I'm not. I need to get that money. We owe money. We got to get that money. And he fucking reluctantly pulls out his fucking wallet and gives us, he didn't give us 10, but he gave us everything he had.
Welcome to the Robertson Stash. Season 6 is brought to you by World Needs Cannabis, empowered by Puffco. All right, what's up, everybody? We got a great episode for you today. We're sitting down with the cannabis legend, Adam Dunn. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks, man.
Awesome, dude. Well, I mean, you weren't just there to witness cannabis history. You were actually kind of a part of it in some ways. So I thank you for coming in today. And why don't we start at the beginning? I mean, you grew up in Woodstock, New York, right?
I was born there.
Oh, you're born there. Okay.
Yeah, we I think about 6 months after we left. Cause my mom was quite the hippie vibed. This is in 1969, so that kind of puts it into perspective, right? Woodstock, 69, summer of 69 makes it even more cliche.
Yeah.
My joke is that I was born into this industry just, by proxy almost, it's like but we were there she had lived there for about 6 months prior to that, but it was like the hot spot to be.
Yeah. So your mom was a real hippie girl?
Yeah. Proper hippie girl. Hippie girl. So we ended up leaving there and, going to Cali for a bit and then to South America, to Chile I was from the beginning, I was bouncing around. And so I got used to that over time. So for me, traveling was in the blood, immediately.
And so how long were you in South America for?
We were there for a couple of years until Pinochet came into power. So it was kind of like, it was like 72 is when we left. And so that's exactly when that whole, we had tanks. I mean, we had tanks rolling up onto the beach and shit. So I was like, okay, it's time to go, I guess. My mom had another kid while she was down there. So she had to smuggle him out. Ramon, my brother, well, he's passed away, but so they wouldn't let him out in the beginning. So it was kind of crazy. Like she had me and then she had him, but he didn't have his paperwork together because he was born there. And they were like, oh no, he stays here. She's like, oh hell no. You know what I mean? So she had to smuggle him out and get us out of there and go back to New York after that. It was also funny part was that this is like when my formative years of learning language and stuff too. So when I got back to America, I couldn't speak English because I was only being taken care of by all the locals there. My mom would hand me off to this local woman who would go take me out into the field, and she'd be picking in the field and have me on the back and talk to me the whole time. So then when I got back, my grandmother was like, oh my God, who's this kid,
Do you speak Spanish?
I speak zero Spanish. Oh, wow. No, my grandmother completely burned it out of me as a kid. So it was kind of crazy. So
you moved back to New York, and then were you there for a little while?
It was again, same thing. Cause I was bouncing around. It was like New York, and then I'd get dropped off at my grandmother's in Rhode Island. Okay. And then I'd go and then I'd kind of go back and she'd be in the city and I would go up and see her sometimes and live with my grandma. Then my mom would go travel around, go to Goa. I mean, she was going all around doing all the things you would do if you were at that time period of your life,
Yeah,
so she was either in India or she was here or there or anywhere.
Wow.
And then I'd go to Cali a lot too. We did the bi-coastal thing where it was like 2 years here, 2 years there, 1 year here, 1 year there.
Okay.
Kept me able to, or taught me very early how to meet and new people and
I'm sure
incorporate myself into it, which was good. That was a good learning skill.
Yeah. And then when you were 18, 19, you moved to Amsterdam for a while?
Yeah, well, I graduated in 87. Went to Australia for a year after graduation.
What'd you go to school for? Was this just like high school?
Just high school,
Okay.
yeah. So graduated high school, and then I had when you make your choice of school, like whether you're going to go college prep or you're going to go vocational. I was like, I'm going vocational. So I was all into cooking at the time. I really wanted to. That was what I wanted to do.
Nice.
That was like my goal, and like at that point in time. So I got a job catering in Australia for the Kennedy Miller production, which is basically the guys who made they're the biggest production company in Australia. So it was actually a great job because it was like, the day I landed like on a Sunday, and on that Monday we were on site. And it was like, when you're catering on a movie crew, you're the first ones there and you're the last ones to leave, because you got to get the breakfast ready and then lunch and then dinner and then pack it up. So it's a long day, a lot of work. But the coolest part was on my very first day. I got there. There's a unit manager on all sites, right? So the unit manager is actually really the first person who gets there, and he lines it up and gets the parking spaces and everything. So we arrive, we set up for breakfast, and the assistant to the unit manager comes over to me and goes, "Hey, you smoke weed?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, come on, mate. He has this little tiny bong, little plastic bong.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, cool, bong, nice. So he packs it up, and I'm like just coming out of the kitchen, so it's all hot, and I take a big hit, and it was like, it just like my head exploded because I didn't realize he mixed it with tobacco.
Oh.
Because in Australia they mix bong hits with tobacco.
Uh-huh.
I mean, joints, I kind of get it. Bong hits.
No, that's a different animal.
And so
like in America they do, or in Europe they do toasting where they'll do tobacco and hash, and they take the whole rip and ascend.
And they're like, it's toasted. It's okay. Doesn't matter. It's still. But anyway, so
what did that do to you?
Oh yeah, I was done. I was like, I fell over, I was laid back, kind of saw like yellow stars, and I literally was seeing stars. You know what I mean? It was like, whoa, man. And I was like, what the hell was that? He's like, oh, we mull it. They call it mulling, So they mull it with. I was like, no, we don't do that.
We don't passed out. They woke up.
But what was also really cool on that set was then I started to realize, oh, so this is the same crew that made Mad Max, and they're like, yeah, this is all this, and I was like, oh, it's like my favorite movie. Road Warrior at the time was like literally my favorite movie. So I realized I'm hanging out with, and like, oh, all the sets and stuff, or all the pieces, like they literally had, you could go
cool.
You could go into the prop room and see all the old props.
This would be the original Mad Max, right? Yeah.
Second one was Road Warrior. So the first one was Mad Max.
Okay.
Which was more of an underground kind of vibe film, and it wasn't quite as intense, right?
Now they've redone them.
Then they did the second one, which everybody thinks is the first one. It's kind of like that. If you once you realized that, you're like, oh, there's a movie before this, and it's when the character first, like his wife gets killed by the crazies, and then he goes and he kind of loses it, and he was a cop. So but in the second one, it's like after the fact. But yeah, it was a cool time, and I was like, so I was there about 11 months.
Exposed to that whole industry. Yeah,
and it was really cool, but it was also like, it was funny because when I was in Australia the whole time, I just wanted to grow weed, even though I didn't, like I had grown one crop before, well, not even a full crop. I had a phototron when I was 16, and it didn't go to completion. It was like, it ended up melting. One of them melted, and I had two of them next to each other. One of them caught on fire.
What's a phototron? These are lights? Phototrons
are like the original. In the back of High Times, you would see this grow box thing, and it was about 3 feet tall, a foot and a half wide. And so the idea was like a little stealth grow thing you could put in your house. So of course every kid wanted one, and I ordered one, and my friend ordered one. We had it sent to my house. We set them all up, had it all going, got it to the point of like just starting to flower, and then one of them just shorted out, and then it melted the other one, and it was like a big disaster.
Oh, no.
So I never really got the full picture done, but in my mind I was still on that tip. So then the whole time that I was in Australia, I kind of was trying to figure it out, but it was really hard. There was no equipment there, and it was like still kind of behind the times. And on the day that I left, which was kind of funny, as I got on the plane and flew back to America, they give you free newspapers, right? And I opened up the newspaper and it said, like, the headline was hydroponic shop opens in Sydney. And I was like, motherfucker, like the day I leave, you know what I mean? Because I was living at this house with a bunch of English guys and they were like, you know, you could do this, right? And I'm like, I don't, you know, I was still like in the reading phase and trying to figure it all out. Hadn't quite got it there yet. But
was anybody else growing at the time that you knew of?
So in Australia, it was interesting because it was like we lived. So first I was living with the lady that I was doing the catering with, and then at a certain point I just went on my own little walkabout, as they call it there, right? And kind of went around and did the whole tour. Came back and I was living at this youth hostel, and the guy who ran it was a Vietnam vet who had never went back to America after Vietnam. He like made it to Australia, and that was it. No, really? And so he was like, he loved weed. And so I had contacts from the movie people because, you know, in the like I already knew
those guys were smoking.
Yeah, so I knew where to get weed from them. And so it was even funnier because it was kind of the classic where I was getting better weed than they were, and they lived there. You know what I mean? They're like, where are you getting this? And I'm like, oh, my friend owns a restaurant. And I would go to this guy's restaurant and he would always have good weed for me because people there were smoking. I mean, it was... Obviously, there's some good weed in Australia, but there's a lot of crappy weed too because most people, it's all Thai and imported weed. So if you grow your own, if you're growing your own from those seeds, they're not usually, you know, it's not perfect. It's like, but it was like and they do foils over there, right? So like instead of having a baggie, they'll take a foil and sprinkle some weed into the foil and then wrap the foil up. And then, so it can, sometimes you get home and you'll be like unwrapping. And keep unwrapping, and you're like, that's it. Like, there's less than a joint in here. You know what I mean? Come on. It was easy to
tough times.
Yeah, it was funny, but it was also like what I really loved is that there was a lot of Japanese living there, and they were my favorite people to hang out with because they loved like anything you did. They appreciated it so much, right? So like if we smoked weed, it wasn't casual. It was like, no, we're sitting on the floor. We're all sitting in a circle. There's like rules to this. You have to, you know, everybody like very, like they would like get so into it. Yeah. It was hilarious. I loved it. It was like, you know, the
ceremonial.
Very much so. And then, you know, after a year of being there, I came back and I went to Jamaica because my mom was in Jamaica at the time. And then we...
wow, your mom's just all like India, Jamaica.
Oh, yeah, she was always in the good spots, you know what I mean? And then, so then when I literally flew back and went straight to her, and then we got on, and then her boyfriend had a sailboat. And because we were living in when I lived in Rhode Island, which is with my grandmother, that was like the only thing cool to do in Rhode Island at the time was pretty much if you're into boats, you know, because it was like, that's where the Newport, they have like Newport is the most famous, like nicest, coolest place to be. And I lived right across from there. So it was like, if you're going to make money, the industry to be in, like if you're in Hollywood, you're going to do movies. If you're in Newport, you're going to do boats.
That's where the money is.
And so it was always like, she met this guy who had a former racing boat that they had turned into a cruiser, you know, so it was like an aluminum racing boat. So I arrived with her, hung out there for a couple weeks, and Jamaica was awesome because I was like, you know, this time I'm like 20, not even, no, it's like 18, 19, I guess I was. And, you know, so for me, like going to Jamaica as a weed person is like, oh, this is it. But I was on the wrong side of the island because on the east side of the island it's real wet, you know, the east side, and the west side where Negril is, which that's where the best weed's at. It's not so much that. What's two things? One is that it's far away from Kingston, so there's not as many police on that side. Was one of the reasons, but it's also because it's dry, so it's easier to dry your weed. And the wet side of the island, it would always go moldy, turn it into hash oil. Most of it was all hash oil stuff.
Did you get to smoke any of the good stuff while you were there?
A little bit. It wasn't. I was kind of disappointed. I was one of those ones where like I was buying weed up and, you know, but it was always a little bit wet, still on the stick. You know, it wasn't very like it wasn't the primo weed that I was thinking the whole time.
Was it better than the stuff previously you were getting in Australia? Was it upgraded at all?
Yes and no. I mean, it was like hit and miss. There was definitely there was definitely better weed there, but usually, and the thing is, it's an export country, right? So that most of the good weed was leaving. You know what I mean? And there would be occasionally people inside, but it was again, it was good times because that's when imported weed was still special, And like where I lived in Rhode Island there's a bay there, Narragansett Bay, and so that bay is one of the busiest as far as imports coming in. Yeah. So all the fishermen, were all lobster guys.
Yeah.
They'd have like brand new boats and all their traps set up in front of their house, and they look like they've never been in the water once. You know what I mean? So you'd be like, okay,
damn,
I know what you're doing.
Hell yeah. So when did you decide to move to Amsterdam? Was that from New York or
similar? Well, it was
or Rhode Island.
It was a similar situation where we moved. So from Rhode Island, I moved down to Florida. I was in Fort Lauderdale,
okay.
and I was working still on boats because it was again the same thing. Like all the people from Newport go down to Miami when this is the season, right in the wintertime. So the wintertime they all take the boats down. So I went with my friend on an intercoastal. Take the intercoastal down, and so we got down to Miami or to Fort Lauderdale, and then I started working on boats there. And then one day they were like, "Hey, we're doing a transatlantic. Do you want to? We're looking for one more person." And I was like, "Sign me up," Wow. So the deal was you get $100 a day. Mm-hmm. It takes about 20 days to get there. So you have about $2,000 in your pocket. So my brain is just like on classic old school stoner mode.
Food,
like
board.
So everything. You got food, board. Oh, okay. This is sounding better every second, right? So we did. So we left Miami, or Fort Lauderdale actually, and we left there. We went to Bermuda. Then from Bermuda to the Azores, which is like right in the middle there of the Atlantic.
Okay.
And then from the Azores to Gibraltar to Spain, and then from Spain to Turkey.
All in 20 days?
Yeah. Well, to get over was 20 days, and then the rest was like another 9 or so 10. And then we got to Turkey, went to Greece first, and then from Greece to Turkey. And then in Turkey, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go check it out, some stuff. Because now at that point, I was starting to get a little stir crazy being on the boat the whole time,
Wow, yeah.
And so then there was another kid on the boat who was a photographer, like a pro photographer. So he had like really nice equipment. And him and I just hit the road, We were like, all right, let's go. We got off the boat in this place called Bodrum, which is on the west side of Turkey. And then we went to Istanbul, and then we kind of we just did like a loop around the whole place, from all the whole.
The boat was docked there for a minute?
Yeah, they said, we'll be here for like the next 10 days or whatever.
Okay.
So we're like, okay, cool. We're going to go. So we went out, and it was, I was loving it because it was like, this is in 88, 87, 88, so 88, I guess. And it was before Turkey had joined the EU. And so they really wanted to be part of it. So they were being extremely nice to tourists. Like they were like on the extra nice tip. Like, do not bother these people, So it was kind of like we were in this weird zone where nobody was bothering.
Trying to be impressed. They were trying to impress you.
Yeah, they were just trying to be extra special. Like they knew that they couldn't be an asshole to you.
Did you bring any weed with you on your journey?
No, on the boat. Well, the boat, the rules on the boat. Yeah, the rules on a boat are if you get caught with a single joint, they take the boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm on a multi-million-dollar boat, so there's no way I'm going to be the guy who gets us in trouble.
Looking when you got off your...
fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Well, that was part of Turkey. That was why I was like, okay, Turkey, now I'm going to find some weed. You know what I mean? Like in Spain, I got some weed. It was only hash, of course, but because in Gibraltar, in Gibraltar, I could smoke some hash there, but I was like, I'm going to find, I didn't care if it was hash or weed. I was just going something. Mm-hmm. But in Turkey, I would notice that everybody was really like, whoa, if I said the word weed or like, I was like, trying to like figure out the signal or, hey, they'd be like, fuck no, because they didn't want to get in trouble. They were like, they knew that if they helped me get weed and I get in trouble, they get in, so it's like one of those things where, so I was realizing that was extra.
It's really illegal at the time there.
Yeah, it was just like I was not in the right places, asking the right people, and so I was having a hard time. Yeah. And but what was really funny was there's a place called Goreme, right, which is in the middle. It's Cappadocia, which if you look at Cappadocia, Turkey, you'll see there's all these crazy like sandstone. It kind of looks like here a little bit like down in Castle Rock, where a lot of sandstone that's been completely. Wind eroded, carved, and there's like they look like mushrooms, like these giant like mushroom shaped rocks. Mm-hmm. Because it's sandstone, it's real easy to carve. So all of these things have like houses built into them. And you're like, dude, this is the craziest place on the planet. Like, I've never seen anything like it. I get there and I'm like, this is awesome. So we get to this place in the middle and we're staying at a youth hostel. And at one point I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a walk out the back. And they're like, yes, you can take the path. And so I was like walking along. We went for the crazy part about this place is that there's these little carved out houses all over the place. Like, and they get abandoned.
Like the Flintstones.
Total Flintstones vibes. And at one point we're walking and it's like, there's these little, I could see there was some like, fruit trees that seemed like they were planted. Like didn't seem wild. You know what I mean? So there's like these little private gardens as we're walking along.
Okay.
And I'm walking with my friend and at one point I'm looking, I'm like, dude, my friend is that weed right there? And I'm like, I think it is. It was like total like,
weed plant growing.
Yeah, like plants growing.
No.
Like a whole bunch of them, and I'm
Whoa.
like, oh, fuck, this is crazy, right? So I'm like, and it was early. It was like, I think we were there in August, right? So it was kind of like early, like they were some buds and little things happening, but it wasn't crazy. But I didn't care. I was like, I got to take some weed. Like I was like, God, I'm looking around. So I took a lower branch off, and I went out and we walked a little further, and I found one of these little things and I put it inside. I kind of went in there and hid it in the corner. I was like, okay, we'll stay here for a couple days and I'll come back up. So we waited like 3 or 4 days and then we went back up. It was still a little bit wet, but it was like, whatever. I don't give a fuck now. I'm smoking this. I don't care how. And so it was funny because we rolled up a joint and we got so hot. Like because I hadn't been, at that point I hadn't smoked really weed. I'd smoked a little bit of hash and a little bit, but this is like, even though it was just like leaves, it wasn't even like proper buds. It was barely anything, but it got me ripped. Like got me
That's amazing.
Super red eyes, super stoned, like goofy high, like that classic high school high.
I remember that.
And then we went and ate some food, and it was funny because we had been eating the same food for weeks.
In like the coolest setting, it sounds like too.
Oh,
like
it was sick.
Surreal.
It was sick. Yeah, it was sick. And then the food was great. Like all the food I was so sick of was great. Like I was like, oh man, I actually like eggplant now. You know what I mean? I was like so tired of it before that. And then we took that. So then we took what we got and we kind of stashed it, and that was our little stash. So then I didn't care about asking people anymore for, like, I was like, you know what, now it's the opposite. Now I got to be careful. I can't ask anybody because if they find out we have weed, we're going to get in trouble. So we had a little paranoia, but it was also good to know that I didn't have to stop, asking everybody. So we made our way back to the boat, and when we got there, the boat was gone. And we're like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, what? And there's no way to call anybody because there's no cell phones. There's nothing like now. Like, this is like when you're having that moment of like, so we're in Turkey. I got like no money left.
All my stuff's on the boat.
My stuff's on the boat. His stuff's on the boat.
What did you do?
So him and
what happened with did you just get the time mixed up or something?
We knew where the boat was going. Like we knew they were going to England, right?
Okay.
So the next stop was England. So I was like,
we got to beat a boat there.
I was like, well, so I called my mom and she wired me some money, right? And so I was like, okay, I got a little bit of money. And then he did the same with his brother. His brother wired him some money. So we had a little bit of money and we were like still there. And we're like, all right, do we go back right away or do we go? Because now we know where to go. Now I know where the weed's at. I know where, So I'm like, let's just go back, right? And then this is the funniest part is that, so when we first got there, we met some kid and he was really cool. And seemed cool, at least at the moment. But when we went back, it was like in the shortest time period that we were gone. We were there for 2 weeks total. First week we went and did the tour, like 7-8 days we did the tour. Then we're like, fuck it, let's just do it again. But the second time, everything kind of like all the stuff that was just, oh, this is great. It was like we could see behind everything now. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, like the guy who was really cool to us the first time just tried to straight up rip us off the second time. And I'm like, you don't remember me, dude? I was just like, this is weird. Like, it was like, they were so I kind of was seeing like,
did you buy the weed from him?
No, it was just, I was asking, it was like one of the guys I asked when I first got there. Okay. And this time he was trying to hustle me on something. Like he was more like trying to hustle me on a youth hostel. And I was like, dude, I already know where I'm going. And he's like, come with me, my friend, And anyway, but then we went so far east this time because I was like, let's just keep going east. And I didn't realize it until years later, but we were basically in Syria at that point, right?
Oh, wow.
We're at the border, and then it got really weird. Like, and I was like, now I get it. I didn't understand at the time why, because we're on the bus and we're going, and the guy goes, "Oh, hey, do not." You have to tell everybody you're from Canada. Don't say you're from America, right? And I'm like, why? He goes, "Oh, they will kidnap you." And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, kidnap? So like all of a sudden everything was getting a little more weird.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Oh, and don't talk about weed," because this is the same guy that I was like asking, as usual, asking about, "Hey, hash? Anybody hash?" He's like, "Do not ask anybody for that. They will definitely kidnap you at that point," right? So I was like, okay, this is kind of weird.
And you're with your friend too?
I'm with my friend, and then my friend's got like piercing blue eyes, right? I can get away with it. Like, I pretty much am wearing local gear. I don't look like a tourist. Everybody thinks I'm fucking Turkish. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, gule gule, ala smaladuk, yeah. You know, I'm trying to like blend in, but he can't. It's impossible. He's got like blonde hair, blue eyes, stands out like a fucking sore thumb. So he was like trying to cover himself up. They're like, you should even, like, he needs to cover everything. And I'm like, okay, this is getting weird. And then it was even funnier was the guy goes, yeah, the town that we're going to right now has the most religions in a square kilometer, like 200 religions in 1 square kilometer. Like,
wow.
Like all, and then he said about every 7 years,
it's like a religious war.
Yeah, they just go at each other with like pitchforks and fucking machetes and stuff. He said it's been calm. It's been calm now, so don't worry.
It's like past due
I'm like, okay, this is getting weirder and weirder. So it was like we did not have nearly as good of a time the second trip. Like the first trip, it was like, woo, this is great. Everything was just like kind of, you know, I was loving it. Ruins everywhere, and you're at like Ephesus and places that are in the Bible and real famous. You know, like this is all amazing. Second time. There's a place called, what the heck's the name of it? Pamukkale, right? So Pamukkale is like hot springs, and they're natural. It's really sick looking. Like when you look at it on a photo, you're like, dude, this is amazing. It's these like baths that are all stacked up on top of each other, so the water kind of comes down through them.
Natural.
It's all natural, and then you get there, and you're like, if you panned over just to like a little bit, there's this hotel and it's like sucking all the water up, and now these pools are all dried up. Like I get there and I'm like, so there's like one good pool. Like in the photos, amazing. When you get there, you're like, well, this kind of sucks. You guys really are ruining this place. And when we came back the second time, they had put a toll road to get there. So it's like between the time we were there 1 week later, there's a toll road. I'm like, wow, they're really setting this up.
And you went the exact same
kind of like
track?
Kind of, yeah. We did partially the same, and then we went further east, and then we came back. But Pamukkale was like, okay, we got to go back. At least, we'll check it out. But it was like, it had gone downhill in a week. You know what I mean? Wild. So it was like I was seeing the future of Turkey. Was like, oh, they're about to fuck this place up. So anyway, then we hitchhiked our way from Turkey to England, right?
Were the people nice and receptive? Yeah, they picked you up.
I mean, it was interesting because when we left Istanbul, we took we hitchhiked part of the way. Then we had a little bit of money left, and there was like certain areas where it was like, you probably don't want to hitchhike here. Like Bulgaria was a bad area. They were like, don't do it. Too many gypsies here, So we took a bus through Bulgaria. And then from there, we made our way up to France, through and then up to France. And then from France, took a ferry over to England, where my friend's brother was at. And this is how I got to Amsterdam. And so basically, when I got to England, I was in this place called Hull, which is up north, right? So in north of England. And my friend's brother owns a tile shop. And the crazy part about this tile shop was like, I was like, so got tiles from Morocco, tiles from Africa, tiles from Afghanistan. I'm like, this is kind of interesting. Why are all your tiles coming from like hash regions? I'm like, makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? Because he's importing pallets of tiles. Perfect cover. You know what I mean? Literally the perfect cover. So made a lot of sense.
Did you just know that you just thought about that when you saw where the tiles were coming from?
Took me a while, but it was like, I was like, because his brother had this really nice house. He had this sick fucking VW, like fat, like really nice, but like not a bus, but like it was like a new modern van, but it was all fixed up and everything about it. And like his, because back in the day there was like the more like video cassettes you had, you were balling. You know what I mean? If you had like 700 video cassettes, you are balling, right? So I go to his house and it's just nothing but videos. And I'm like, this is amazing. I've been on the road. I've been traveling for a while. I can just sit there and watch movies. I thought this is great, you know? And then I look outside and I'm like, where's that ferry go to? And he goes, oh, that goes to Rotterdam. And I'm like, well, fucking, I'm out of here, guys. I'll see you in a couple days. And so I literally just got on the ferry, called my mom, said, who do we know? She's like, oh, our friend Jules lives in Amsterdam. So I was like, okay, cool. And Jules was a NorCal chick who had moved there to grow weed 10 years previously, right? So she's already been in
Amsterdam. Was it legal in Rotterdam too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so I take the ferry to Rotterdam, and then I take a train to Amsterdam. And then I meet up with Jules, my mom's friend, and it's like she was living the classic what you live in Amsterdam for, because she was gay and a weed grower. Perfect, you know, so for her it was the perfect place to live. So she's there and she's like got this apartment, rent control, and she's paying 190 guilders a month, right? And she says, hey, I'm moving in with my girl. If you're interested, you know, I'm going to rent this out. And I was like, oh, so how much is that? And I'm calculating. It's like, that's $90 a month.
Wow. To
have my own apartment in Amsterdam. I was like in a whole floor too. It wasn't like just a little, it was like a decent sized apartment. I had the whole floor to myself.
What part of town was it in?
It's in the Rijstelkade, which is kind of like, it's in the Pipe. I don't know if you remember it's called De Pipe. So the reason they call it De Pipe is because all the apartments were shaped like a pipe. They're long with a little hook at the end, right? Okay. So it's either this way or this way, but they all had the same shape. You know? And it's the working man's area. Coincidentally, 1 block away from like the local grow shop where all the cool, you know, where all the people who were not tourists would go to, you know, so it's just all perfect placement. And so I was like, oh shit, I might have to do this, right? So I pretty much kind of made the decision in my mind at that point that I'm coming back. Like I was like, I told her I need to go home, get my shit together, but I will definitely take this place. And she's like, okay, cool. I'll see you in a few months. So basically then I had a mission at that point. So I went back home, sold my Phototron that we were talking about earlier, sold the Phototron. I had a car, I had a Olds 98 convertible. That was, sick. I mean, yeah, it was a piece of crap. I bought it for $500, but still, that was all I had. I had that, a snowboard. I had a snowboard from this company called Flight, which was out of Newport, where I was talking about earlier. And Newport, like, if you think about snowboarding, you do not think about Newport, Rhode Island, right? No. But it was very much a skater town, right? There was a lot of skate stuff going on. So these guys were like skaters who developed a snowboard, and the snowboards that they were making at the time were like the first ones with aluminum on the side, with rails on the like, and
with edges and camber
edges, but it was still the old fashioned with like fins on it and shit, right? So I had fins. It was pointed on one end, so it wasn't like a double sided like the new ones. And this is when Burton still had strings. So like Burton still had like a rope on the front, right? They had not developed.
What year is this?
87.
87.
Yeah, 87. And so Burton, like I went to the Burton shop at the time, and all they had was all their boards still had like the ropes on them, right? So that's how old school they were. Wow. And this one was the first one that was taking it to the next level.
With bindings?
Had a clip-on binding. Everything was like really like professional for the time period, but it was like a fucking rocket. You couldn't carve on, because on the East Coast it's all ice. You know how it is. Coast. Yeah, and so you couldn't. All it would do is go super fast. You know, there was no like finesse to it at all. And anyways, but I sold that. I sold all my stuff. Got another friend of mine had he was doing bootleg t-shirts for concerts, and so I was like, what do you got? I need to have something to sell when I get to Amsterdam. I need some swag, basically. So he's nice. And it was Steel Wheels tour for Rolling Stones.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's a good one, because Stones is like, you know, I can't get like some unknown band. I have to have something that everybody knows. So I got 300 t-shirts.
Wow.
And that's all I had pretty much. I just flew over there with my bike, 300 t-shirts, and you know, whatever, my girlfriend and a few other things. Like took my girlfriend, we're going. So we all moved, you know, we went to Amsterdam. And
like, what were you think? Did you have like a visa or anything, or did
no?
They care back then
they did. Well, that was the thing. So first I got there, and I wasn't really thinking that through that part. I didn't think about that part. I was just like, this will be fun, you know? And then my girl was like, about 6 months later, she's like, you're not going back, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm never going back. This is it. I'm here. Like, because also the funny part about Amsterdam is it's the shortened version of Amsterdam is Adam, right? So I see my name everywhere I go. I walk around. It's like Adam this, Adam that, Adam. I was like, this is my town right here. Like I'm all about this place. So she knew I wasn't ever going to leave. But I also, so at the beginning, I was still working on boats because my friend
that's a good spot to go work on boats.
Yeah.
Too.
And so I talked to my mom's friend and she's like, oh yeah. Well, and then I knew this one guy that was coming over and he needed to do a refit on his boat. And that's where that's pretty much, you know, if you're on land, that's where you're going to make your money, is painting and varnishing and doing all that kind of stuff. So I would go to this guy's his boat, and he'd pay me $100 US every day. Every day.
How many guilders is that?
$100 a day, because I'd be working
making rent every day.
Every day. Yeah. I was like making rent plus.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I have cracked the code. You know, at 19 years old, I'm ready to. I've already figured this out. Like, this is like. Everything was and the thing about it too, about Amsterdam, is it's very centralized, right? Everything is very organized. Like you pay your rent at the post office, you know, you bring your bottles back to the shop, they give you money back. There was all these like really smart things that I was like, this is so much easier than, you know, you can ride your bike, you don't need a car, no car insurance. So my brain was just like, this, I've cracked the code, you know, I don't need to.
It's a good quality of life.
And then I'd call my friends back home and they'd all be complaining about whatever, you know, and I'd just be like, dude, you should come over here. Like I got so many people to move there. I was like the cheerleader of Amsterdam for years, you know,
recruiting
like
people.
Oh yeah. And I was like, you got to come. And every time somebody would come, they'd be like, all right, I'm going to stay too. You know, so we started to create this.
What was it like when you first moved to like late 80s? Like who were you linking up with?
It was,
you know, shops.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, it's the actual whole coffee shop scene. You know, it was still, I mean, it wasn't young. It was already like 10 plus years established, let's say, because it was like, you know, the early 70s was there was people smoking weed there, but it wasn't quite organized. Like they had like, you'd go into a bar or something, and they would have a guy in the corner, and he'd have like weed in the pocket of a jacket hanging up next to him, and you'd pay him and go to the pocket over there, you know, and you go to the pocket. So it's still in that like kind of quasi-legal underground, but nobody was, you know, they didn't have a system yet.
It still has some weird rules about how they get the weed in the coffee shops right now.
It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense, right?
It's a totally dumb thing where it's like they have everything starts from the shop. Like, so as a grower, you have nothing. You have no rights. You have no security.
Yeah.
So it was a learning curve. But I was there, so I was working on that boat for about 6 months. And then my mom came over to visit, and we were cruising around and was walking past the Hash Museum. And she was like, you should get a job there, like as a joke, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's funny. I didn't think anything of it. And then I would hang out at this one shop called Homegrown Fantasy, which was like the only coffee shop that I found that actually had weed that I like to smoke, because it was not imported weed. It was local. Oh. They made their own hash. They grew their own weed. They knew what you know, so it felt like it had the right vibes.
Could you buy hash too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was the thing that was for the most part, that's really what most people would smoke.
Okay.
Because in the beginning, the Dutch they were growing hemp before I was there. Like all the best influences in Holland come from America. Like, you know, you got Dave Watson, who's famous.
Yeah.
And he brought over Haze and Skunk. There was another guy called Old Ed who was there also. It was not Ed Rosenthal, but another guy named Old Ed. Another Cali guy brought a bunch of genetics. Then there was like they considered me and our crew like the second wave, you know, because we came over and then brought more American genetics into play, you know.
Did you realize what you were getting into when you moved there? Like, did you know it was that kind of like international hub kind of?
Yes and no. I mean, I learned quickly, but I mean, my friend was growing there, right? So she was in the industry already. So I kind of had her as one liaison, and then when I met the owners from that Homegrown Fantasy place, this guy named Henk van Dalen, he recognized that I loved weed and that I was like dedicated, like, because I was into hemp too, right? So my whole thing was that I had Jack Harris' book, right? So I had The Emperor Wears No Clothes. That was like, I had taken that on the boat with me, and I was just obsessed with it. Like I would read it. I'd be telling people facts all day long about hemp and cannabis, and because it was.
And like, what kind of like hemp were you?
Well, the thing is, I didn't.
Clothing or?
Yeah, well, I didn't know at that time. I just knew that I was into it, right? So I took that Emperor and I photocopied. I went to this place and I photocopied like certain bits out of it that I thought were interesting, and then I took like a scrapbook and I made my own shortened version so that I didn't give my book up, right? Because I only had the book, so I was like, you know what?
Absorbed it all when you did that too. Like,
yeah, and I made like a little chapter, like food, medicine. I did the kind of the classics, and then I put that book. I said, hey, can I leave this at your shop? Because I realized there wasn't a lot of stuff for Americans who didn't speak Dutch to do when they sat at the coffee shop, because there'd be like all these Dutch magazines around, and you know what I mean. So I was like, here, this will give somebody to people to read.
Were there a lot of Americans coming through?
Oh yeah, tons. And so Hank was like, you really like this hemp stuff, huh? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, my friend owns the hash museum, so let me go introduce you. Oh, no. So I was like, oh, that's funny. My mom told me I should work there. So anyway, we walked over there. I met with Ben Dronkers and his son, Alan, who owned that place. And he kind of came in and said, hey, this kid really loves weed, and if you can give him something. So they were like, oh, well, you can get a job at the hash museum, right? And basically the hash museum job is just sitting there every day hitting an eight guilder thing. Everybody comes up, 8 guilders, they go. So it was kind of like mindless work, but I was in my dream job in my mind because I was curating the hash museum. Yeah. And so the funny part is that I was pushing the hemp thing, and I was like, what about hemp? What about hemp? What about hemp? And they were kind of like, they didn't even care. Like all they cared about was weed and like smuggling techniques. Like you'd go in there and they'd be like, this is how people smuggle, and this is.
So that's what they would show at the museum?
Yeah. So they weren't really focusing on the hemp side of it all. And then I said to them, like, well, what about all this? And I showed it to them, and they were like, yeah, and they even showed me, like, yeah, we have the book. It's right over here. Like, so they had the Emperor. They just didn't push that agenda. And so, sure enough, though, it was kind of like the time period where it was bubbling and people were asking a lot about it. And they ended up hiring this guy, Chris Conrad. And Chris Conrad is the editor for the Emperor Wears No Clothes. Oh. So I was like, oh wow, I get to meet the guy who, so I was like rubbing up with all these like weed people that were famous in my world, maybe not famous yet. And I got to meet Jack. So Jack came over. Wow. And then I got to meet, being there, it was like never ending. I had, Ed Rosenthal and Jack, and anybody who was anybody came through. They all walked into the hash museum, or they walked into Sensi Seeds, which was right next door. Mm-hmm. And so after about a year of being there, I got Tony who's became Sagar Mother Seeds. I got him a job there. So he took over my job, and I went and started working at the Sensi, because Sensi was killing it, dude. And they were making so much money. I remember one time asking them, like, how much you guys do in a year? You know what I mean? And they told me it was 50 million, right? Wow. That they were making. This is back in 1990.
That's crazy.
And this is like, I'm like, it didn't even make sense in my brain. I was like, no, like 50
were they just
million
balling out back then, or like
it was 50
million back then. It's like
it was crazy.
500 million.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. Because there was nowhere else in the world to do this, right? So I was at the right place at the right time, because I started working in 1990, and the scary part though was we were definitely under the fucking eye, because they were just done Operation Green Merchant a year earlier.
And what was that?
And that was based on all the grow shops in America. They were in seeds. They were looking, so they got Neville basically for the seed. So from the seed bank. Neville, and so they had their eyes on Amsterdam, and they had their eyes on the distribution in America, and they were cracking down on everybody, and it was very, very intense. So it was kind of crazy that I even got a job at Sensi, because like Ben had like a paranoid thing where he was like, wait a minute, Adam is like, you sure he's not a narc? You know what I mean? Like they were like kind of worried about me, because I was this young American guy, came in, loved weed, wearing a tie-dye, long hair. I pretty much looked like I could have been the quintessential undercover cop at the time. You know what I mean? Like, send the kid in.
Who was this guy's name?
Ben, who Ben?
Ben.
So Ben is the owner of Sensi.
Ben Drunkers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Ben's been arrested like 35 times at this point in time. So he's super paranoid about people, and he's got a pretty good idea. But I luckily convinced them that I was a real, I was there.
Dave Watson? How does Dave Watson fit into this?
So Dave Watson is
with the narcs.
Well, the funny part with Dave Watson was he came in one day while I was working there, and he was like all pissed off. He had like this. Came in and he's like, "This is all mine, skunk. I brought the skunk." So I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" I had no idea. So I call Ben, and I'm like, or I called Alan, actually, his son, and I'm like, "There's this guy here. He's saying it's all his." He's like, "Oh, he's the American guy." Yeah. "Oh no, that's Dave. He works with the police, right?" So he got me super paranoid because. And then I find out later it wasn't that. It was they were working with the government because they had the first official license to be able to work with, like a DEA license to be able to work with cannabis. And so they did all the right things to do that.
To import it?
No,
or just to
transport it, import everything. They had pretty much carte blanche. They could, but they were supposed to destroy it after. For research purposes. And
exactly. But they weren't.
Well, they did, but what they did, which was really smart, is they had this sort of like setup where they would, the hash would move across a screen before it would go to be destroyed, and then coincidentally, under that screen would be a lot of good hash. So they'd end up with bucket loads of hash that they would be like. Wow. They called the 50 because it was 50% THC. It wasn't full. It wasn't cleaned up yet, but it was still kind of rough. But it was still pretty good too, considering.
Damn, so what were they saying they were doing with it? To get exempt like that? What a smart angle, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about angles, right? That is the way to go. And then, again, they were the ones who sort of figured it out, which then pissed off all the Dutch people. So they had this kind of animosity towards them. But then Rob Clark, who's real famous, wrote the Marijuana Botany book. Okay, I've heard. Yeah. So they're all Santa Cruz guys. And, they were all like Rob's book, the Marijuana Botany book. That was his master thesis project that he was doing for college, and he just turned it into a book after. Wow. And it became like, somehow he was in the right time where they were like, I guess you could do that. You know what I mean? It is acceptable, I think.
What's the book about?
It's the most simple. It's like the most straightforward cannabis book about breeding, and not so much about it's not really a grow book. It's more of a breeding book. So it's very, they have timeless breeding information, which was at that point in time very rarely able to be implemented. You know what I mean? Now, of course,
it's the Bible for breeders.
Yeah, and it's just teaching people, the real fundamentals. Which doesn't matter if it's cannabis or peas, it's the same thing, really? Yeah, there's many things that cross over. Obviously, there's certain things that are, because we're talking about a plant that produces not just fiber, or, it can also produce medicine, and it can produce all sorts of things. So it's a little more complicated than some other plants, but there's a lot of stuff that's just the same, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you're doing. But anyway, so Rob and Dave, they were GW Pharmaceuticals, which became like the biggest. If you look now, they hold the most patents, and that's pretty much where the future of this is all going to go. It's all going to go into, who holds the patent, where are you on that totem pole?
The patent for what?
Well,
like
for
hash making?
For hash making was
breeding?
I think you talked to Marcus about that with Reinhardt, which that was a whole
big lawsuit.
Yeah, and so, but they were more focusing on. They weren't really. Well, the thing is, there's so many things as you're developing, you're gonna come up with new things, and then you're gonna realize, well, if it's patentable, let's do it. Because the next person coming down the road are gonna come up to the same conclusions, and better if they have to come to you. But in general, I think
so was there breeding techniques that you could patent, or breeding processes?
It's more. It's not so much the breeding side in the end. I think it comes down to now it's mostly CBD and things like that. Now they've kind of figured that whole side, because once you're processing CBD for medical purposes, and you have to, you can't just you can't claim, as you know, you can't say, oh, this is great for you. But no, unless you've got that,
scientific test.
Exactly. And that double blind test, and which is impossible to do. And the thing is that Amsterdam was the focus at the time because it was the only place you could do all this research. Oh. So there was like, people would allow it there, which gave them a 20-year jump start on everybody. Wow. And so now that everybody's in the same field, it's like, you kind of, all roads lead back to that.
Are they ahead of us, the rest of the world, with research? From having that kind of head start?
Israel's probably the most advanced right now, for sure. Israel. Yeah, the Dutch kind of dropped the ball a while ago. I mean, the thing is, here it was Americans in Holland doing all the research, So the Dutch were not realizing what they had in their possession. They were kind of like a little more like short-sighted with it, where it'd be like, you know what, we can just tax people in the coffee shop. It's like, that is such a lame, like, that was it. Yeah. The way they did it was sort of like don't try too hard, because the minute you try too hard, the tax man comes and he wants his piece. Uh-huh. So the whole system kind of ran at this like very relaxed, half-assed almost mentality.
Under the radar almost.
Yeah, like don't make your place, like I'd go in as a typical, like, I got all these ideas. Why don't you make this more comfortable over here and make no, you don't want it to be comfortable. Then they'll hang around all day. You know what I mean? It's like, we want in and out, in and out, in and out. You know what I mean? It's like, okay.
Yeah. I remember my friend told me a story about the inspector that came to his coffee shop and was busting his balls about a staircase being too steep. Mm-hmm. And then they just like would fuck with each other back and forth. And
well, you know what? So here's how the tax man works in Holland: is he comes into your shop on a Saturday, at around 1:00, and he clocks.
Why Saturday?
Because it's the busiest day. Okay. Yeah. So he'll sit there for
that for the average.
Exactly. He'll sit there for 1 hour on your busiest hour.
Oh my gosh.
He'll be like, okay, you did 26 of these, 13 coffees, okay, give me the monies, you know what I mean? And you'd be like, this is the only day we're making really good sales. Monday through Friday, it's like, Monday through Thursday, it's only half that, a quarter of that. So it's kind of like the whole, and their mentality was one eye closed. It's not legal, but we're going to close one eye and we're going to let it happen. Like that's their way of doing stuff. So yeah, it was, and again, like, you don't make the place comfortable. You don't do this. You don't do that. You like, why is there like a cat in the window and a fucking bunch of dead plants? That was like your typical coffee shop. Bunch of dead plants and a cat.
At the coffee shop, I know the Dampkring. I mean, it was one of the oldest cats that lived for like 20 years and would wake up in the morning and just want to smoke weed, go to whoever's smoking there first. And like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the scene. Yeah. Was there anything else? Like, was there any like underground spots that weren't like that, more for the culture? Or
well, so my friend and I started the Gray Area back in the day.
Wow. Okay.
So like that was that was our attempt at doing something for us Americans. Like we basically so
that's still going to today,
oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah. Wow. And what's funny about that, so John, who's running it now, he was in a band with this other guy that I used to go to school with in Rhode Island. And I met this other guy, Victor, when I was working at the Hash Museum. This American guy rolled in named Victor, and he had like $20,000 in his pocket, literally, right? Like, wow. He just got off the plane pretty much. He walked into the Hash Museum, and I was like, I heard his accent, and I'm like, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Rhode Island. I was just like, oh, like to me, Rhode Island was like trouble almost, because
was it comforting hearing that accent?
It was the opposite. It was like, I was like nervous because I felt like I was being like, oh shit, I've been found almost, even though I didn't know him, but because it was very familiar, it kind of felt like, okay, this is trouble. Because Rhode Island always meant to me, like, because that was where I didn't realize how many people smoked in Rhode Island. Rhode Island is like the highest per capita smokers in America.
Is that right?
100%.
Why?
Small. It's easier to get the numbers figured out, but it is.
Right. But so there's a lot of smokers there for sure.
A lot. Yeah. So many to the point that I didn't realize it growing up. I always thought I was, stealth. Like no one here knows.
Being stealth.
Everybody knew. And then later when I figured out about all the the smuggling and this and that, so you started to see it all. But anyway, Victor came in, and I was like, we started talking. and he was a contractor, so he did, build stuff. And I was like, oh, you come stay with me. I'm trying to build a grow room. He goes, oh, no problem. I'll build it for you, type thing. So he, so I had a guy with some money coming to help me out.
The stars were lining up.
Everything was and he came over, and Victor was awesome because he was about 10 years older than me, and he owned a club in Rhode Island, which was it was a hotel punk bar, right? So it's punk bands and industrial punk and kind of indie bands, right? That's
cool.
And this is in 87, 88, and so
punk bar.
Punk, he owned it with his brothers and his mom. Yeah. I later found out that 20 grand came straight out of the safe. Like he walked in, took the money out of the safe, and just disappeared. Right. So there was that, but he was. So he had HR living at his spot,
HR. Is that band?
Singer from the. Now my brain farting on the band, but it was like he pretty much was the. Because punk is not a very good moneymaker either. It's like one of those classics where you do it because you love it. You know what I mean? Like,
what was that bar? There was a bar downtown, the famous one, where they all went. And there's a movie about it. I think it was in New York.
CBGB's. Yeah, that was huge.
Did you ever go there?
No, because I left when I was. That was the funny part. Is when I left America, I was 19, so I never got to go out and do anything. So whenever I'd come back, it'd always be a new experience for me. I'd be like, wow, this is crazy. Once I was 21 coming back to America, I was like, this is weird because I'd already been there for so long.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, and I'd already been out and raging and doing all sorts of stuff. So for me, it was kind of old news at that point.
Wow.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up because my brain doesn't always work. So, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, of course. But yeah, it was, so Victor came and helped me out. We built the grow room together. It was kind of funny too, because we had this spot. I had this apartment, second floor, had a Turkish guy living below me, and I had this guy above me who was a junkie dude, and he always had people in and out. It was constant flow of people. So it was kind of a pretty fucked up apartment. This is a different place. I'd moved into a new place at this point because...
Was it more money or less?
It was about the similar price. I got it from a guy who was a busker who had a gimp hand, American guy. He had a gimpy hand, and he was out playing music on the street. And one day he came in and he's like, dude, I really need money. And he's like, I got these magazines and I got this and I got that. I was like, you got anything else? He goes, I got an apartment. And I was like, well, fuck, let's talk about that, Yeah. So then I moved into that place, but it didn't have a real contract. It was super shady. And it turns out that the building was set for demolition within a year or something. So, because it was in a neighborhood, which was awful. So I knew
weird rules with renting there, right? You can't buy anything.
No.
You have to lease it for 99 years or something.
Well, it's even weirder like that. So you pay key money there. It's called, I gotta remember these things. You basically have if you have an apartment and you want me to rent it, I got to give you a couple grand, and then you give me the key, and then I keep that same contract going on that same, it's a way to pass it along. You don't switch it officially. It's always unofficial, but it's just the way it...
But you can't buy it. Who owns it?
Well, you can't own the land. The land is 100%, that's what you're basically saying is you'll never own the actual land. You own the rights to the apartment type thing. And like you say, 99 years, because they know you're not going to live that long.
Yeah. So you got to pass it along to somebody. So you're the gatekeeper for that property.
Exactly. And so people will pass them on to...
Did you ever stay on a boat while you're out there?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I had a 60 lighter on a boat.
60 lighter?
Yeah, 60 lighter on a houseboat that was built... Because you know how those boats are.
What's a 60 lighter?
60 grow lights. I had I had a huge, because it was one of these. It was 100-foot.
Those long apartment boats almost.
Yeah, just square box. It's just a box on a platform basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and those platforms, what is interesting about them is they're concrete and they're about 4 feet deep. Right? They're not just flat. It's not like a flat thing that you put the house on. You're putting the house on on a floating concrete bowl.
Is that right?
It's 100 feet long, 25 feet wide. So you got this. So my friend had taken one of those house boats and they raised the floor 90 centimeters, which is about 3 feet almost. So they basically went from like a normal size, like a 6.5 foot bottom floor, kind of small and tight, to like an 8.5 foot, 9 foot ceiling. So then they lined it all up with lights, tapped the power, and it was just like classic old school. And that whole street was all Hell's Angels, and everybody on that street was growing weed. All the boats, like half of them at least, No
way.
And so it was kind of like the perfect little spot. And unfortunately, I had a fire next door on the other boat, which caught my boat on fire. Luckily, that one got put out and everything was good. And then about 2 months later, my boat caught on fire. I was like, this is
Why were they catching on fire? Water and electricity mixing together?
No, the guy next door was because he was drunk and he fucking lit a candle and left he got like the wind blow through and lit a curtain on fire or something like that. So that was like that. Mine was definitely electrical fire, 100%. Yeah. And I had a system this guy had built for me he called it the Einstein system, and it was using thermostats all around the room instead of having like one single thermostat that runs the whole room. We had them in zones. And so the idea was if the zone got too hot, it would turn half the lights off and cool it down that way, because we couldn't really nobody was running ACs and things. It was kind of like what
were you doing with all the smell of it? Were you just venting it onto
every room had a carbon filter that all fed back to one main. I had one main exhaust fan, which was a 60 centimeter, so it was about that big, like really, really big ventilation. And I ran it straight to the roof on the boat. And then what I did was I built a custom ventilation thing where I took a normal one of the dome things, little dome like the skylight things. Yeah. Painted the inside white. Mounted that on top of a box, and around the outside of the box, I put louvers that would face down. Yeah. So when you pump the air up, it would hit that skylight and kind of come backwards and go out the sides. So it was like pretty stealth. Like I came up with a pretty smart system because I think it was about eight separate carbon filters in there, because it was like I'm trying to keep it as clean as possible. But when the fire happened, the only thing left were those carbon filters. Like you could look at the room and go, you could stand above this thing and go carbon filter, ballast, carbon filter, ballast. Only thing that was, everything else was gone, like scorched. But that was the.
What happens then? Do the cops know it's a grow?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah,
do you just walk away?
I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was. Everything was kept, like I had the guy who I was renting it from lived in South Africa, so he was out of the loop. He just pretended he knew nothing of nothing, Mm-hmm. The neighbors didn't really know our real names. It was kind of like we kept everything a little off, Yeah. I had my mom living there at the time, so my mom was there. And the crazy part about that fire was I got a call at 2 a.m. from her. She wasn't there. Like I was like, what came? Was she staying in it while you were growing in it? Oh yeah, she was living there. She came to Amsterdam after I was there for a few years and was living with me. And funny part is everybody thinks that I learned how to grow from her, but I was teaching her how to grow. Really? But then your mom sounds so cool. But she was really good at it. So she was like, we were winning cups and everything. And every time I win a cup, I'd be like, Mom won this one too, you know what I mean? Like she was killing it. Sweet. But the crazy part was like I got a call at 2 a.m. She's not there, and I'm like, that's weird. So then I knew I couldn't go back to sleep. I had to go fucking figure this out. It's about 45 minutes from my house to get there. And I used to drive this little Vespa car thing, little 3-wheelers, the little 3-wheelers you see all over town, the little Italian. Are they 2 on the front and 1 on the back? 1 on the front, 2 on the back, but they're Italian. Well, my buddy in Amsterdam had a Bachram, or I have a goat one over there, the Bachram with the basket in the front and the 1 wheel in the back. But you had 2 in the front, 1 in the back. Yeah, was it your friend or was it Willie by any chance? Willie. Okay, I know Willie very well. You know Willie? I was going to start a glass shop with him, dude. I met Willie in 2009 at the
That's wild. That's Willie the Billy Goat on there, dude.
That's hilarious. So Willie was
shout out Willie if you're
soft glass. So he was doing soft glass.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and he had
this old compound, and we were putting our feet up on the desk. It was like an old
so did you meet
Catholic school.
You met Crazy White Sean too when you were there?
No, it was just me and him, and we were plotting. I would be going down there a lot to like start a shop in that. Did you see Willie's space? How
the bar or the new old space you're talking about?
It was like a Catholic school that was once a Nazi headquarters, and it was like the perfect hot shop. Yeah. And there was like the balcony, and there was like the whole big area. We were trying to make a hot shop in there, dude. I went down there like
that's funny.
6 times to plan some.
He's
stuff.
one of the few Bach Brahmer people out there, so that's
funny.
Yeah, it's so I met Willie in 2009 at the it was the ASD/ASR convention in Vegas, which was before anybody had any kind of like legal way to present stuff. They would do that show. That was the tobacco show that was going on, and they had like one row.
A tobacco show?
It was it was huge. It was basically like if you owned a head shop.
Okay.
Or something, you would go to this ASD/ASR, and they had kind of like everything. But then that year they opened it up for weed, and then I met him, and then he moved to Amsterdam after that. It was kind of funny. It was like I got to I watched the whole progression of Willie Lump Lump. We used to call him always.
Lump Lump?
Yeah, Willie Lump Lump. But he lived with you never got to meet Crazy White Sean, the kid that he was living with for a while there? That was the same spot, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think so. I mean, this would be 2014, 2013, and on for a few, like, little while years. Mm-hmm. Like, we were in...
No, yeah, that was later. Because Sean died in 2011, I believe.
Okay.
Or 12.
Yeah, it might have been right... Yeah, so it might have been right after he died.
He has a bar now.
Sean or Willie?
Yeah, he owns a bar, which is a terrible idea. I'm like, dude,
because
you do not
want drinking.
You do not want to be. Yeah, exactly. He's already drinking a bit. He's Irish to begin with.
Do you still keep in touch with him?
I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, but kind of indirectly through people. And his wife, Madeleine. You met Madeleine?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Madeleine used to work for me at my shop. So I had.
Really?
Did you ever come to my hemp store there? Did you ever come to the shop?
In Amsterdam?
Yeah, there's only one hemp store. It was me. Hemp Works. You never went there? With the jackets, you saw the...
Oh, wait, I went to, on the north side, Jason Dinetting.
Yeah, that was my office. That's my office. You went to the office.
Somebody else that I was...
Doug.
It was Doug I met, and I got a tour of that spot. Yeah, and I got a jacket. Yeah, I love those jackets. I got a couple of them, dude.
Well, there you go. That was, I mean...
So you were a part of...
That was me,
Hemp HoodLamb.
Yeah, that was me. That was my partner. That was me and Doug. So me and Doug...
Sick jackets. Now it's called something else, right?
Fresh Hemp.
Yeah. Are you still a part of it? Or
sort of, kind of. I mean, I don't deal with the dailies, and he's taking care of Europe. And so in the beginning, when I first came, that was the other thing, too.
I love those jackets. Those are so sick, dude. They're so warm. It's durable.
It's one of those things where it kind of sucks because we were 20 years ahead on everything. So that now it's like... I wish I was doing what we were doing then now, but now everything's so much more expensive because of China. Like we produced everything in China, which everyone got on our ass about that. And I'd be like, yeah, but the hemp is grown in China. So think about it. Like
save on emissions.
You want me to ship it from where to where? And then that's going to be like, so from an eco-minded point of view, and plus Chinese are very good at what they do. Like there's no question they can produce clothes.
That makes sense if the hemp is grown there and then the factories are all there.
Yeah, and you're talking about clothing. Like we're so far behind on all that kind of stuff, But yeah,
dude, by the way, this hog is fucking tasty, dude. Nice. This is great. I like this. Well, that's so cool. When did HoodLambs come around about?
So we started in 93. So first shop we had was called CIA. And that
cannabis
was in Amsterdam. Exactly.
Yeah. And that was a shop? Okay.
Yeah, it was. And the funny part about it was on the second floor. So depending who you were, some people would say, oh, it's not officially a shop. And I'd be like, dude, it doesn't matter what floor you're on. It's just like, are you paying taxes? Do you pay taxes? You're a shop. You know what I mean? That's how I looked at it. So what happened was we opened up the first hemp store in Europe. And then... about 2 months later, these guys in Germany opened up theirs, and we're like, we're the first hemp store. And we're like, hey, buddy, been around. You bought stuff off of us. How could we not be the first? And they were like, yeah, but you're on the second floor. You don't count. You know what I mean? Like that kind of vibe. But because we were always the young kids doing things. And the cool part about doing CIA was every day was like we were reinventing the wheel. Like it didn't matter what we did. It was like, oh, I bet we're the first, even though we might not have been the first doing it, we're definitely the first doing it in an open like that. You know what I mean? Because it'd be like, I'd be making hash and be making.
Is that where the laminated process came through?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was all just kind of like that was the aha moment I had where I was sitting there behind the counter looking at my hash and looking at a laminating machine, like for the IDs we used to make, like a little membership ID thing. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like a wonder, you know what I mean? So then I was like, got some cellophane and I put some hash in the cellophane and I just ran it through it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's it, like that. And then I showed it to Rob Clark and he was like, that may be the ultimate way to do it. You know what I mean?
For presentation?
Well, for combination.
Do something. It does something to it too, right? A little bit of heat.
Well, it goes in as powder. Like I brought one because I thought we'd get to this point at some point. So, so you're putting it as powder and it's coming out the other side as hash. So you're like, okay.
So this is like the first.
Yeah. So.
Fresh press.
So this one you can see here.
Wow.
Boom. Now this is like a little too good to do what I was doing before, which was just rolling it up and smoking it like it is. You know what I mean? That was my whole thing. Like, just roll it, put some weed in there, smoke it. Right? That's this one's a
hash paper.
Yeah, you just basically take it, roll it up, boom, you got yourself a instant blunt, right? And if you have it, it's for, people be like, this is the biggest waste ever. And I'd be like, it's okay. If you have it, waste it, You can't taste it if you don't waste it, right? Wow. That's what the kids say these days.
That must have been blowing people's minds, dude.
Oh, for sure. And it was a moment in time too. It was really funny because I remember going like, dude, I'm a hash artist, right? And it was like, it wasn't a word then. Didn't even make, like, that wasn't a thing. And but then later it became like, oh, you know what I mean? And so now I laugh every time I've like, people.
You think you coined that?
I think at that moment, at that moment I made it up off the top of my head. I was like, and it was because my ex-girlfriend was an artist and I wanted to kind of get back with her. And I was always like, but now I'm a hash artist. Look, amazing. So I would take these things and I would, because the key is you got the hash, but then you got this whole medium around it, right? So what I would make these. And then, for instance, I would take like backstage passes. If bands are in town, I would make a bunch of these for them inside the backstage pass so that then when they go on tour for the rest of the Europe, they would be handled, so they could keep it on their bus and whatever. And there was times where people would hit me up from all over the place and be like, dude, we're on top of a mountain in Russia and we just fucking remembered about your laminates and we're all, super baked. And because it's always like, the best fucking hash in the right places at the right time.
You would just put them on the back of the card, like pack it all in there?
Well, basically when you're making backstage passes, there's a pocket there. So what we do is you put a piece of paper inside before you put it through the laminator and you laminate it almost to the end, but you leave the end open, pull it back out, pop it open, drop this inside, then seal the end off. Wow. And kind of do that. And so
they would just cut.
And then whenever I would make it so they wouldn't know that it was in there, I wouldn't make it too obvious. And then whenever they just get some scissors, cut it open and you're good to go. And people would I get calls from New York, I get calls from Russia, I'd get calls from all over Tokyo and everywhere where people would be like, yeah, we just cracked it open. So yeah, it was fun. It was
fucking cool.
And it was, for me, it was like the other thing too, is if you look at it, it's kind of like it's got a good shine on both sides. Like it's doing because when you have a good piece of hash and you break it open, it's completely different on the outside than it is on the inside color wise, usually because of the oxidation. And this doesn't have that same thing because it's so thin and it's fresh and sealed, you know what I mean? So it was again, like I was saying, I was like thinking to myself while I'm sitting in my shop and I'm making hash and I'm like, there's probably only a couple hundred people besides Morocco and all these places that are traditionally doing it, but there's not that many people in the position of having enough weed and time and the passion to do it. And then now over time, so now for me it's just sort of like second hat, like got to make hash. And always the funny part too is I would always I kind of got myself into like my own little created my own little nightmare as far as like always, everybody always wanted them. And when you're making hash, you realize not always the same. Every strain is different. Some make it really good. Some don't. Some come out like crumbly and shitty. Some are perfect. You roll it up. You're like, oh my God, it's like comes out hard, So it was I realized quickly, like, it's very hard to do commercial levels of hash unless you've got, enough weed.
Yeah, tons of.
And we were only doing it from trim mostly, hardly ever like full flower. That's a whole new thing.
Just using bubble bags
no, this is pre-bags.
Really?
This is like before bubble bag. So what's also funny is, so Mila, when she got her first pollinator, which is before the bubble bags. Mm-hmm. So the pollinator, she brought it over to the CIA, and we did a sort of like a demo. And we had Rob and Dave and all these famous hash people, all the smugglers and big time guys came to watch this machine. And, we loaded it up with some weed, ran the machine, and then she was like, you can keep it here, And I was like, nice. So I had it for like a few months where, I got to learn before anybody was really seeing what was going on. And I would be like, what if I put it in the fridge? That would be, so I got a fridge, put it in the fridge. I was like, it's way better like this, keeping it cold, So understanding temperatures and so I had that for a few months. And then, Reinhardt came into town. And this is where, when you guys posted the thing, I was like, let me throw my 2 cents in so Reinhardt came into town. He sent the machine to another friend of mine, this guy named Bill Barth. And Bill was like a blues guitar player from the States who, there's a guy named Alex Chilton who was real famous, and basically Canned Heat, the band Canned Heat.
I've heard of them.
Okay. Yeah. So Bill was sort of like the fifth Beatle with Canned Heat, where he was a really good guitar player. Big, tall, Jewish guy, bald, Jewish, tall guy, kind of didn't really fit the persona, let's say, but he was really talented. But when Canned Heat kind of got their deal, they kind of left him kind of got kicked to the curb a little bit. So it's like the fifth Beatles situation. He moved to Amsterdam and super obsessed with hash. Somehow he knew Reinhardt. Reinhardt used his address to send the machine to him. And then he hit me. Then my friend Bill calls me up and he's like, Adam, you got 48 hours with this machine. So it's the same situation as the pollinator. I got to use the pollinator for months before anybody ever got to really even use it, except for her and her people. And then I had this machine for 48 hours before anybody had seen it. And I took it to my house and I did a few runs. This is the machine basically is called XL420, and it's it got a stand. And it's got a metal vessel at the top, which is about 5 gallons. And then it has a bladder that comes down off of it, which is funnel shaped. It goes down to a tube, which has a little valve on it. And you put one of those really old medicine bottles with it's got the tapered top where you drop the cap inside of it, Okay. So you click that onto the bottom, and basically you would take your egg beater at the top with extensions on it. You put your weed in there, turn it on, and then you'd watch the hash come down this bladder because you'd see through. And I put a light, so I put a light behind it. I'd be like, dude, this is like a fucking vault. This is like having a lava lamp of weed, because you could see the hash kind of coming down. I was like, this is awesome. So I was loving it, but I was thinking about it while I was there. I was like, wait a minute. I don't need this bladder. I just need to screen, mixing, water. I was thinking about it. I was like, well, fuck it, just cut buckets off, So I kind of retrofitted the idea. I started cutting buckets off and stacking buckets and putting screens inside. And I was like, well,
just 5-gallon buckets.
Yeah, take a 5-gallon bucket, put a screen in it, stick it into another 5-gallon bucket. I'll cut the bottom off, put that into another bucket, and then start doing it. So it was kind of I got the jump on that, which was awesome. And then they designed the bubble bags, or the isolator bags first. Okay. So isolator bags came out, and that was this guy Mark Rose and this other guy that were all hanging around. They were sitting around the table, and basically one guy was like, "Why don't you do it out of cloth, out of material?" Mark Rose, who still makes the bags for Marcus, got on his bike rode to his house. He had a sewing machine at his house, and he just whipped one up because he was like, and he came.
So they were all just metal screen before? Or what were
the original one was, it was still nylon. It was all nylon. It's all nylon. Okay. Still nylon, but it was, because the thing about metal is if it's lasered out and it's perfect, that is good. But most of them are not. If you look at them under a microscope, it's a lot of sharp edges there. So usually what happens is if you're trying to make hash on the metal screens, they'll break up the glands and kind of clog up the screen faster. The good part is it's easier to clean because it's stiffer. You know what I mean?
So what's the nylon? What are the new bubble bags made of?
Oh, they're all nylon.
Oh, yeah, nylon. Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything.
Nylon cloth. That's the same thing, right?
Yeah. And I'm talking like the screens. So the screen is the most important part, of course. You want Swiss. You want Swiss high quality screen, German. Precision. Whereas you can see it now, like people get them from China, and they're all like, if you look at it under a microscope, it's like they're not even close. You know what I mean? Plus, it's the inside dimensions, not if that's what you're also looking at, like people
for the micron.
Because people are read like they're going from one side to the other instead of like, well, actually how big is the hole? That's the most important part, you know what I mean? So there's a lot to learn within the screen world. But yeah, it was like and the other funny part was there's an art shop near down near the Heineken brewery, and it was like been there forever, and they had silk screen on the roll, so I would go down there and I'd get some silk screen, and it started to get real popular. And then these guys now you go there and it's hilarious because if you go to the same store, they know exactly what you're using it for. Because back then they were just sort of like, wow, people are getting this screen and this screen are very popular. How come everybody wants they all want these two sizes. They don't want any of the other sizes. So it was like, but now you go there and it's like for hash making, like they basically tell you right away, like, oh, you want that one, But yeah, it was like my first hash making process, which is, it has its own legendary story behind it, but it was like a guy that was one of the Northern Lights guys moved to Amsterdam. He's from Seattle. So he was like, because Northern Lights was like a crew basically, and it's a bunch of different people. That's why there's a 5 and a 2 and a 1, and there's all these different numbers, but they're all Northern Lights, but they're not even related, half of them. It's just different growers had different phenos that they were pushing out. So he had moved to Amsterdam 91, and he came over with a clone, and he came straight to Sensi, and I was working there at the time, and he was like, I need to keep this thing going. Let's make, he came to talk to us. He brought over all of his equipment from America. He shipped it all over with parabolic hoods and stupid shit. It's just like things that didn't even make sense over there. And like he forgot, he didn't realize the power was different. So he brought he brought everything, but, so he was growing, proper. He was one of the few people there that knew what the fuck he was doing because he's coming out of Seattle. He's growing on tables. He's got rolling tables, rock wool. He's cranking out numbers, and I'd go there to help him out. And the same guy, Victor, that helped me with building my grow, he helped him build his grow, and we were all kind of like a team. And at one point, they had so much material around, and I was like, hey, can I make some hash? He's like, yeah, go for it, whatever. It's like, here. And so he had like, I fucking tons of weed to play with. And his farm was a former windmill, but they'd taken the top of the windmill off. So it was just like that round building that's, cool. And so it was kind of like the worst place to make hash because it was round with all carpeted with like barely any windows, Did
it have multiple levels or was it just high ceilings?
Yeah, it's multiple levels. So upstairs where I was, here you can make hash here. So all I had was a TV, and I put some plastic on the ground so I wouldn't have to, lose a bunch of product. And I'd sit there, and what I was doing was I was putting springs in the corners of the screen so I could bounce it, like tap it. So I'd be bouncing the screen. I'd put the weed on the screen, and I'd tap it, and it would kind of shuffle its way down to the bottom, and then I'd pull it back, and I'd do like 2 or 3 pulls, and then I would off to the other side. Then I do that again. And so I'm sitting there doing all that, and the TV is an old TV because it's got a tube on it, right? So tube television. Yeah. It creates its own static, right? So, and I'm like trying to figure it out. Like at one point, I'm like, whoa! I could see because when the sun comes in and you can see all the shit in the air. So I could see it like sticking to the television,
Whoa.
and I was like, huh. So I was like, oh, I got some fucking, this is where all the good, because I'm in my mind thinking that the lightest stuff is the best, but the reality is it's not. That's all the dirt, right? So what it's doing is it's pulling all the stalks to the TV, and all the glands are falling down. So my hash is really good underneath. Like, the hash is great. But then it took me, like, at first I scraped some of that off and I tried to make a bowl of it, and I was like, oh, it tastes like talcum powder. Like, this is terrible. So then it was like, oh, well, that's the dirty shit. So the dirty shit's going to the TV, the good stuff staying on the screen. And so I started calling it Oprah hash because I was watching Oprah the whole time. and
Wow.
This is when Oprah was still like midgets and weirdness, and you know what I mean? It wasn't like later. It was like that was the crazy Oprah years or whatever. So I'd sit there making hash at this guy's place, and it was funny because it was like
hash.
I was like, yep. Got some Oprah hash, and always had to put stupid names on everything. It was like 30-meter hash was the other stuff that we made because it was never got farther than 30 meters away from us. Because
amazing!
It was like that's so yeah.
That's great, man.
But it was fun because it was like again, very few people were into it, So it was like you're far and few between. Nowadays it's more appreciative, which is good. I like that. People finally grew up because America's still got a lot to learn when it comes to hash, which is part of the deal. Like right now they're farther advanced when it comes to all this crazy concentrates, but they're very far behind when it comes to just traditional. Like, I mean, the piatella is like the closest thing to traditional high quality hash now that's starting to awaken people to the reality.
Let's talk about the piatella.
Yeah.
What is that? Isn't that just when your hash butters out?
Pretty much. It's like it's basically so you take all the, you put it under vacuum, and then you put it away and just wait, So it's a waiting game, and you want to keep it kind of room temperature.
Like curing fine whiskey.
Pretty much. And the good part about it is you can't recreate time, right? So like, as long as you're ahead of the game, like if you put something away today, there's nobody out there that can beat you on that time unless they've put it in ahead of you, right? So you're kind of on this like, hey, guess what? The key is now to make enough good hash to be able to put it away and not crack into it, because that is literally the hardest part. But
does it get better with age, or is there a certain point where it might have an expiration date? I
mean, I've smoked 20-year-old hash, so I don't think it's really that.
Is there anything about aging it that long that makes it better?
Yeah, there's so many reactions happening, chemical reactions happening
that
naturally.
Could be a whole new market. Like, how you buy 20-year-old whiskey or 8, I don't drink anymore, but like, like, do you think there'll be hash that's like 15-year-old aged hash in a nice jar?
100%. Yeah.
That's wild.
And people, there's guys that pull out a same piece of hash year after year after year, and they know it's getting better, or they know it's like I've seen stuff that's gone in like garlic and come out like sweet.
That's
so you're
crazy.
like, well, there you go. I know it was fire, but it was a different type of fire. And now it's complex. It creates more complexity.
Is it mostly for flavor, or can the potency change at all? Like, does it go up or down?
I mean, it all depends on storage. If it's stored well, the right temperature and everything, it should. What you'll notice if you were to test it would be that there'd be a bump up. For like it would as it's aging, it would kind of get stronger.
Oh, really?
But then it would kind of drop down and sort of level out. So there is a peak moment when everything's
when THC heats up a little bit.
And because you're not doing it with heat, and because you're not doing it with, there's a little bit of pressure, because if you seal it up, you get just the tiniest amount of pressure, and so you can imagine it's like super slow reactions that are happening. What I try to explain to sometimes people is like, if you take a bag of batteries, right?
Yeah.
And there's positive and negatives in the batteries, right? And they all start touching each other. They're gonna do things are gonna happen, right? Whereas if you put them in a pack and they're all organized and lined up, then they will age better. So you are creating this reaction by having them all squished. So the glands themselves are individual, right? And they all have if there's two glands sitting next to each other, they're not transferring to each other. But the minute you squish it, right? Now they're transferring
So
now there's things that are shorting out other things, and there's things that are making things better, enhancing. So there's stuff happening. So you're creating the chemical reactions at that point. It's kind of like when you rub it in your, like you take fresh pollen, you put it in your hand and you squish it out and then you smoke it. Whereas most people in the States just kind of like take the powder and put it on, and so it's okay, it'll work and it's nice, but when you actually squish the hash first and then kind of work it a little bit, it gives it burns slower, it
activates it.
It's a little bit of a self-activation thing at that point. So
boy, so much science behind it.
It's all bro science stuff from my side, you know what I mean? It's just doing things until they making sure they work,
But yeah, you don't, I heard people are trying to preserve the hash, and then that takes the whole organic, volatile.
How do you mean preserve? How do you mean preserve?
Like I heard, to keep it stable, but really that's not what you want to do. You want to let it do its thing. I
think most of the, what we were talking about earlier, most of the problem that you see now is that people are trying to push things through the system fast, you know what I mean? And they're looking for these super terpy, high, like very volatile stuff that disappears really quickly. Like if you have something like I don't like it when people have to keep everything in a cooler and you're walking around with your cooler and you're like, oh dude, don't die. It's like, come on now. We have to, stability is an important part of it all. So for me, that's why I like traditional hash, from the fact that like it used to be like they would pack it up in Afghanistan. It would make its way via many routes to get to where it needed to go. And when it gets to where its final destination and it gets opened up, it's not the same thing. You know what I mean? Because think about all the temperatures, humidities, the different, like all these, like flying in a plane, going in a boat. There's
Is that why it looks like dark on the outside, light on the inside?
Yeah,
from the traveling. So it doesn't start like that.
Yeah, it might, like when they're first pressing it, it might be pretty even colored, you know what I mean? And then by the time it gets a little, it's got like a little oxidization on the outside, which is, that's why, but it protects it. It's like the thing about, I
used to love that blonde Lebanese hash, dude. That was just yellow.
I mean, Canada, it's weird how Canada loved hash and America just like only liked Afghani hash, and that was about it. Like there was never, we didn't have a lot of Moroccan,
Moroccan,
and didn't get a lot of, Lebanese and all these other flavors. That's why when I moved to Amsterdam, that to me was much more exciting. Like the flowers were good, but it was really about the hash, because the hash was like, it had its Provence, where it had been it had already like
I got to
had
see
levels.
It come in at one Morocco. It came in like big bricks like this in suitcases, and then the other ones were all like footprints of hash and came in people's souls.
Well, that's the funny thing, is that's what we call, that's the good hash. That's all the good hash. Anything shaped, that they do now though in Morocco is they just shape it like a foot. It's not even. They do. Yeah, so it's like you're like, this has never been
walked on.
You can tell it's like thick, but it's the exact same. The shoes, they just call it the shoes. That's it.
Wow, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, those are the ones. That's what you want, and then you can tell that's the Percy's and the other ones. But I do like a good pollen too, the really thick stuff that's light, and But you have to work that stuff. That's the stuff you take that and you work it, and you roll that into your shit. Yeah,
dude, what is the KBG and how does that fit in?
It's KGB.
KGB, sorry, KGB.
It's when we were CIA, which is hilarious too, because when
that's why I got the CIA, KGB.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting about this? Okay, so when we did the CIA thing, my partner Dion, who was like the revolutionary guy, you know what I mean? He was like, the reason we called it CIA was because he was like, his brain was based on like, we're taking down the man, everything was like, and then me and Doug, who are still, so Dion's not with us anymore, but we split up as partners pretty early on because we realized he was a loose cannon, you know what I mean? Like we were like, dude, I want to live in Amsterdam. I don't want to get in trouble. Like I don't want to, why are we bucking the system? Like what is going on here? We have to
rock the boat too hard.
Not too hard, but at the same time, his whole deal was we got to free America, which I get, and he did a good job, which is also crazy because if you think about the timing, right? Like, so we got the CIA in 93, we did the Cup, and then in 95 was pretty much like when 215 went in,
so you
Cali.
were part of the first Cannabis Cup too?
Yeah. No, we're not the first. It was 6th annual cup, but the
Okay.
first 5 were a bunch of bullshit, right? So
Oh,
the
really?
first 5 was basically Steve Hager, who was the editor from High Times, flying over to Amsterdam with his Freedom Fighter of the Year, who would be whoever, one random person a year, and they would kind of like get all this weed, get super high, and then write, and he'd bring a writer with him, and the writer would write the article. You know, so it was kind of like
Okay.
their once a year deal to get their free weed. So
Wow.
then they asked that guy Chris Conrad that I was telling you about earlier, who was the editor on The Emperor.
Oh yeah.
So they asked him, they said, hey, you're in Amsterdam. Can you help us put together the cup this year? And Chris was like the least party guy you could ever imagine. Like he's like the total nerd guy. He was a really cool guy, but not. And he goes straight to me and Doug and Dion. Oh, actually, Doug wasn't involved. It was me and Dion at the time. He goes straight to us. He's like, hey guys, do you guys want to organize the cup? And Dion had gone the year before, and Dion's like, dude, it was so stupid. We could do so much better, right? And I was like, okay, let's do it, right? So then we went and got our place. So at that point, I quit working for Sensi, and me and Dion partnered up. And then Dion got Doug, who went to school with Doug, and Doug was going to teach snowboarding after the Olympics. He went to work for the Olympics, right, in Barcelona that year. And then after the Olympics, he was going to go and teach snowboarding, right? So he was going to go to the Alps or whatever. And then Dion was like, Dion was like, come on. He came to Amsterdam to meet Dion, and Dion's like, dude, we're about to do this thing. You might want to stay. And so Doug ended up staying, and then me and Doug ended up being like partners for life, basically. Dion was the loose cannon. We had to separate our ways. And so that's how we came up with KGB, because we were already CIA.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, we don't need you. Fuck your CIA. We're KGB now. No good bud. So we no good bud in Amsterdam. And everybody got confused because they thought it was Killer Green Bud. And I'm like, no. That was somebody else. We were no good bud in Amsterdam. So everything had to have a double meaning. That was just how everything was, because that was our style. So it was like people still didn't get it.
I like that.
When they
no
be like,
good bud with a K.
Yeah,
I love that, dude.
Yeah, exactly. No good bud in Amsterdam, because everybody would always say, "There's no good weed in Amsterdam," and I'd be like, "Yeah." And what's even funnier about that was, we had a map on the wall of Amsterdam, and we had push pins for all the shops that we were friends with. And we told everybody, like, oh, go to the Picasso and order, get the Afghan at the Picasso, or go down to Katsu, which was like our favorite shop, and it was out of the center. So this, we'd get people out of their comfort zones, where it'd be like, instead of going to the local ones here, take this one tram, get off the tram, walk down the street, take a right, boom, boom, boom.
Like the first weed maps.
Exactly. And I even told that to Weed Maps. I'm like, dude, we were doing Weed Maps way before you guys were. And then the funny part was, we also would go to the shops. And this is what I remember distinctly, because Dutch people are very cagey about like networking, because they want to make all the money. They're just super. I mean, I don't know if you dealt with Dutch on a business level, but they're very, very shrewd people. So what was funny was, I would go in and I'd say, hey, can I leave this poster in your place? And at the bottom of the poster, we took some. I
didn't really have any experiences like that, but this is 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
I'm sure too.
Well, it's more just when you're really doing business with them. Their whole thing is
living immersed. I did a show there, and they treated me very well, and I thought it was great.
If you go to a place and say, hey, I'm looking for this thing, and they don't have it, they will straight up tell you it doesn't exist in the planet, right? You'd be like, no, I know it exists. I'm just asking you if you have it. No, doesn't exist. Impossible is like their word. They love the word impossible. You'd be like, no, nothing's impossible, dude. They'd be like, impossible. It's just impossible. Impossible. And you'd be like, no, it's not. And I'd be fighting with them tooth and nail all the time.
I can see that. I can envision that.
And so I was like, hey, can I leave this poster at your place? And there's some business cards at the bottom for our place. So when people come in here, you tell them, hey, you want some seeds? Go to these guys, right? And they'd be like, why would I do that? And I'm like, it's like networking. They're like, networking? What does that? And I'm like, it means I help you, you help me a little bit. It was just like, I was coming at it always as a New Yorker, like a New York salesman mentality, like, hey, best price, you know what I mean? If I can make it work.
Yeah.
Yes, say yes to everybody. But in the end, we got a few shops that did it. So every coffee shop that was on the map, we put a thing. We just did this kind of, generalized thing.
Wow.
And the thing about Amsterdam too is it's all walking, as you know.
Uh-huh.
People get lost like a motherfucker. So you have to put a map on everything. Everything we made had a map of how to get to our spot. So people would be like following, but people would come there and it's funny because I'd meet people years later and they'd be like, dude, we were like almost ready to go in your store. And then we all got fucking creeped out and we left because they'd see like CIA, KGB, you know what I mean? They were just like, this is too much. And, and then Doug, when you met Doug, you notice he's very college prep vibe, right? Very smooth guy.
I met Doug.
Yeah, you met Doug in
at
Amsterdam.
the party?
No, in Amsterdam. When you said you met my partner.
Oh, Doug.
Yes.
That owns. Yes.
So he was him and his friend that came over were like straight out of college. They play like if I went there, I'd be also nervous. It was like literally like I was the only reason that people kind of trusted it because I'd come down, hey, what's going on? They'd be like, oh, this guy, all right, he knows what's up, But at the end of the day, it was pretty funny because we played the game.
You were like CIA.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, like I saw people because we always had a book in the front too where people would write stuff, and there was like so many we thought for sure this was a fucking thing, but you guys are awesome, that kind of stuff.
You have that piece of history.
I think Doug might have it in Amsterdam still, but yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Doug's still out there.
He lives in Tenerife now, so
Tenerife.
Yeah, he's a surfer.
No shit. That's where our buddy Jason Rouse is doing some shows.
Oh, nice. We'll get him linked up.
And that's wild, man. Yeah.
So it's funny because Doug moved. So when we convinced him to stay there. Right, he was on his way to go snowboarding in Switzerland. He ended up in Amsterdam. We had, after like 3 years, like we'd never left our fucking place. We were inside working. I was either in the grow room or in the shop, or just run down to the store and get some food or whatever. But we were like probably for the first 2 years, we barely left the building, right? Mm-hmm. So Doug was like super pale and, like he's a California guy with fucking, his tips done on his hair and stuff. And now he's like and I'm taking him to like underground squat parties and fucking, we barely see the daylight because it's fucking Amsterdam. So you're like, well, we're in the, I'm taking him out to all these raves and craziness. And then one day he's like, wait a minute, you can surf here? And they're like, yeah, there's a spot right out here. And all of a sudden his whole world opened up because he realized that now he's the big fish in a small pond because all these Dutch surfer guys, they're there's a couple guys that kind of know what they're doing, and then Doug comes in like he's like, oh, then his whole world changed. You know what I mean? So it was kind of fun. And that's where the jackets did really well too, though, because all these surfer guys are out there in the coldest, fucking nastiest weather, and Doug would have his jacket and be changing, and then they'd all be like looking at him like, dude, that looks so comfortable, you know what I mean? So Doug was his whole sales pitch was a winter jacket for surfers. I was like, all right, this is like this is so out of left field, you know what I mean? Like two different complete clash.
What a story, dude! I loved those jackets, man.
Yeah,
they're sick.
The good part about them is because we made them so well that
all of the hemp.
They're hold on, just lowered myself.
Oh, yeah, I think you got it.
There we go. I was like, I've done that. But yeah, it was good to make a high quality product out of hemp because the thing about being a hemp shop is that we realized, we were constantly buying stuff and trying to, and a lot of times it was somebody's first product they ever made. You know what I mean? So we saw the development of that industry literally from the ground up, where it'd be like, people, because the thing about hemp is it's super high quality. Sometimes though, it's almost too high quality, right? So if you're doing a certain item, like in the beginning, t-shirts were like, man, I wish I could make a t-shirt. That'd be so cool because the hemp was super heavy. It took years to get it to the point where every single year the fiber would get a little lighter and a little bit tight. They'd come to the point where finally they were, But in the beginning, it was like, this guy from France would come up with shorts that were made out of the stuff that you should be making couches out of. You know what I mean? So it's like impossible. But where the jackets, it was like the first time where everything was perfect. Like, wait, this is what you should be making out of this stuff, because the whole point of hemp is that it's super high quality, super strong, water resistant naturally. And then we would make them even more waterproof, but you pretty much on its own, the fibers expand, and by expanding, it tightens up the weave, and then that way water runs off.
What happened with like hemp? Because it's so renewable. Like, is it because of the Hearst family and the newspapers?
You mean as far as back in the day, what happened? Why?
Yeah, I mean, like, why don't we use
too competitive? It was too competitive.
It's fire resistant as well, way more. It lasts longer than the building supplies. Hempcrete.
It's one of those things where it's so competitive, and it fucking just takes, like, it doesn't matter what
because of existing methods of building and where it would.
The thing is, it's usually cost, right? Because we're not at that stage yet. There's nobody growing. So the hemp thing got fucked up in America because of CBD. CBD ruined hemp. Like, if CBD was never in the mix and everybody was growing hemp the way it should have been grown for what it should have been grown for, then we would be like miles ahead. Whereas right now, what happened is all those farmers got fucked up the ass hard when they tried to grow hemp, because everybody turn the direction towards CBD. So what happened was, if you were growing on your 100 acres, 10 acres, 5 acres, if you started and you were not thinking CBD, you were just thinking industrial hemp, where the fuck are you going to do anything with that? Like, what are you going to do at the end? You go, okay, I got all this hemp, now what? It's like, oh, well, we don't have anything to do with it. So there's no
why is no companies taking that byproduct or the product and it's making it out of fiber?
So for instance, like the reason that China is so far ahead with us is the fact that they never
ahead in this hemp world.
They never. Oh fuck! I mean, when it comes to textiles, 100%. Like, they're the only ones. Like, it's basically, it's like a little bit in like Poland and Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, and there's a few spots that have some small numbers. Here you have Summer Star and up in Glenwood Springs, who has a small loom up there, and she's like the only American loom that's even producing anything, and it's very small numbers. It's like, and so the thing is, it's a $50 to $100 million production to build the thing, to produce the hemp, to make it high quality, right? Which is a big investment, and
150 million?
50 to 100 million. 50 to 100 to really do it on scale. Like, I mean, you could do it.
Produce the raw material.
That would produce
a usable product.
That would take the hemp from the field and get it into the point where it would come back as a textile in your hands, and you could actually then start producing it. Because there's a lot of processing involved. It's a lot of labor. It's the thing about hemp too, is it's very aggressive, right? So like, if you think you know it, like, say, like when it comes to sewing, right? You take when we first started making those jackets, we were making them in Amsterdam with Turkish ateliers, right? So we had Turkish ateliers that we would hand deliver a roll of hemp or a couple rolls of hemp. Here's the hemp, here's the fur, here's the zippers, here's the buttons, and they would do all the sew and cut and sew for us, right? And the first couple rounds destroyed everybody's machines, like just fucking destroyed them. Like, they were like, holy shit, dude, this stuff is tough. It's like, yeah, because once you start layering it, like, one layer, no problem, 2 layers, 3 layers, good, 4 layers, like, you start getting, it's like, put the fur in there, you know what I mean? So everybody had to like retool and dye their places just to accommodate us. And it's like that on everything. Doesn't matter what you're talking about, whether it's harvesting materials, even hash making stuff too. You realize how quickly, like, the resins are strong. The paper that it makes is super, like the paper that you make with hemp is document quality. If you like, you just got to.
Yeah, the Constitution is written on.
Exactly, for a reason, and it's sort of still there, still around, right? So if you take but you wouldn't want to make notepads out of it. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't want to make like a sticky note out of hemp, because why do you want a sticky note lasting 200 years? You know what I mean? So the problem.
So paper, like tree paper, is a little more biodegradable.
Yeah, it breaks down quicker. Yeah, okay. And so. And like, when it comes to textiles, it's like wedding dress material. It's like linen, it's like linen and hemp are pretty much to the point where they're pretty much the same, to the point where most linens back in the day were hemp, just not labeled as hemp, because linen sounded much more exquisite. Hemp sounds like peasant gear, right? So like, and that's the other thing is like, you don't hear about it a lot because people weren't really focused on it. So like there's a museum in Amsterdam. I don't know if you ever saw it, but there's a shipping museum down. If you come out of Central Station, you take a left and you go down, there's a big ship there that's parked all the time. And it's called the Scheepvaart Museum, which is like the shipping in the industry. So it's all about the, East India Company.
The north side, right? And you take the ferry over.
No, it's still on the Amsterdam side, but it's, if you come out of the station, walking towards the town, you take a left there.
Left.
Yeah. And then if you keep going about a mile down, you'll see there's a tunnel there. And next to the tunnel that goes to the north, there's a shipping museum. Anyway, so I went there with Alan, who is from Sensi, who we were talking about earlier. And so if you go into that museum so the irony was that ship sits there with no sails on it, because they can't make the sails because they don't have the hemp, right? So we went over there and we're like, hey, we kind of noticed that you don't say the word hemp anywhere in here. Like in this entire, hennep is what they say in Dutch, but it's like nothing says hennep anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And the guys are like, well, it says natural fibers. It always says natural fibers. Uh-huh. So I'm like, why? So we were like, well, we're coming from the Hemp and Marijuana Museum, which was the former hash museum. They changed the name to the Hemp and Marijuana Museum. But we were like, hey, we wanted to work together with you guys, like help you upgrade your descriptors here so that we can like push people toward, hey, if you want to know more about hemp, go check out these guys. Because if we send people to you, it's kind of ironic that you don't talk about it, right? Because if you think about Holland, which was the richest country in the world, right, for many, many years,
like tulips,
around that same time period when the whole tulip thing went down, and because they created this, 1600s, well, they created the stock market, right? They're the ones who created, So the whole so it's called the Beurs. It's on the Damrak. If you come out of the Central Station and you walk down on the left, on the left hand side is a building called the Beurs, and that's Beurs van Verlaag, right? And that is the original stock market building ever, right? Wow. So they're the first people to be like, hey, you can trade in tulip bulbs. Great idea. You know what I mean? Like, so they kind of created the whole cost of a house.
Exactly.
You could buy a house for a bulb. It's like, that's crazy. It's insanity. But so the shipping museum, they were like not interested at all. And we're like, and so we were like, dude, you guys don't understand the reason this country is here is because of hemp. So what happened was when they were building, you got to imagine the ships, every ship had 50 tons of hemp on it, average. Oh, wow. You got the sails, you got in between every single board on the deck, that's all hemp rope that's been dipped in some stuff and stuck in there as tar. Really? They take tar, they put it in the tar, and then they squeeze it into those edge things, and it creates a watertight seal. Okay. So, and they have to again, working on boats, it's kind of like, oh, this is interesting. So every time you bring that boat in, you got to redo all of it. All the decks, all the sails, all the ropes.
Did you use hemp when you were?
Nah, because it's like
old school.
It's nylon rope. Because we had the boat we were on was like, you push a button on the ground and it would roll. They had the roller furlings, which are the parts that would wrap the rope in, but it was all automatic, and those were using nylon and stuff. But it was like, if you imagine 50 tons of hemp per ship, thousands of ships in the harbor constantly getting redone. Where's all the hemp come from? Came from Amsterdam. They didn't ship it in from some other place. It wouldn't make any sense, right? So even though like later it became like the Philippines and places like that started to produce it on scale, back in the 1600s, I'm not exactly sure, 14 or 16, but all the windmills that were around Amsterdam most of them were processing hemp because they needed to feed the ships to go out to get all the stuff. Whoa. So that's why we're trying to explain.
So they were like little factories taking the raw material and making rope.
They make the windmills. Yeah, the windmills basically has the power, right? So they would use that basically it would be going up and down, and they'd be pushing the hemp into it, and it'd be crushing. Because this is also the fun part about having a hemp store and growing weed and having plants all the time. So what I would do is I'd take the hemp stalks, and somebody would come in and they couldn't quite grasp what's going on. You'd be like, the clothes are made out of it. Like, what do you, the seeds? Like, no. Here, let me show you. And you take a branch, and you basically just crush it in your hands, shake it a lot, and you have fiber, right? It's like magic. There you go. And then you brush that onto like some metal brushes,
Yeah.
and it would fray it all out. And then you take that and you put that into your thing and you wrap it into rope. Wow. So it's a super long. The whole thing about it is hemp fibers are the longest fibers in nature. Right?
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, they're natural, strongest, longest, combo.
Yeah.
There might be ones that are really long, but they're flimsy. These ones are like strong enough that if you take that plant, break it all up, shake it out, you got these little fibers, you can take those things and I can just twist them 2 times and pull it with you and me, can't break it, you know? So you're like pretty strong shit, And so, but it's all.
So everything else is a bit shorter and you have to wrap it more and it's just not as.
Yeah. It'll never, exactly. So it'll never hold a ship, you know what I mean? And so when you start doing the numbers in your head though, you're like, that's a fuck ton of hemp, 50 tons per ship. It's like acres and acres and acres. And there's a crazy story where there's this guy who was super asshole. I don't have details in my head. It was like one of those vague stories, but there's a friend of ours who was a Dutch guy it was in Amsterdam North. So Amsterdam North was one of the biggest producers. That's why it was really cool that we had our office there, because we're like, this is where they made it all. And there was a guy over there in the North who was a big ass, like super asshole, like slave driver, like he was. The Dutch are also pretty much responsible for most of the slave trade, and you know what I mean. They used a lot. They were very tough people back in the day. They weren't fucking around. So anyway, this guy was such an asshole that
they don't have Santa Claus there. They have Black Pete.
Yeah, Zwarte Piet. Yeah, but they ended up, the people working for him ended up lynching him. Whoa. With his own hemp rope. So it was very like poetic justice, right? You know what I mean? But that's the crazy part about hemp in Holland, is that there was a campaign we did one year where I can't remember the tagline, but the whole imagery was just a noose in our window. And it was about hemp kill. Oh yeah, it was hemp kills. We did hemp kills, right? Whoa. And then so people were like, we tried a little tongue in cheek. Because it's like, yeah, it killed a lot of people. It was called a hemp rope, and it would hang you. You know what I mean? That's the only way it's going to kill you. You can smoke as much as you want. It's not going to fuck you up. That was our way of trying to present it. But I think about it now too, and it was like, yeah, it probably was a little rough having just like a noose in our window of our shop. That was like a little rough. But yeah, it's
Did people get the message, or does it?
Yeah. I mean, it was a good one. I forgot about that one until now. I'm like, that was another one of those genius. Well, the other one too, our very first campaign we did, which was also very ironic and interesting. So we were making hemp. So when we were making our first hemp clothing, we met up with this couple, who were English couple, who were producing hemp in Italy. And Italians are, they make the best of everything, whether it's food or textiles. They're always
known for that. Yeah.
Known for the best quality possible, right? So they had these jeans in '93 that were so soft and so well done. They did it. So they used usually it's like an enzyme process, right? Using like enzymes to soften to soften the fibers a bit. But this stuff was like, we had been selling hemp already for a few years, and
was it denim or was it hemp?
Theirs were black and white. They didn't do the denim natural because they went for black and white. It was an English guy and his wife was German, right? And the timing, this is '93. Everything, Esprit, that company, Esprit, the clothing company.
Maybe.
So there's this clothing company called Esprit, and everything in 1993 was natural and white. Like it was like the year of, that was it. Everybody was going for that tip. So these guys were on that. So they were not only making super high quality textiles, but they were also really watching the culture, Unfortunately, it was shit none of us wanted to wear, right? We were like, oh, natural kind of colors would be nice, you know what I mean? But in general, their quality was so high. So anyway, they were producing in Italy, and the place that they were doing their enzyme reading process and their pro process or post processing was the same place that made all the textiles for the Vatican, right? They were doing all. Right? So they sent us photos of like our material for our stuff that we were getting made with them on the table next to all this like religious. You could tell it was like the stuff the Pope's wearing or something, right?
Holy shit.
And so we were like, oh, cool. So then we did this ad, which I'll get you a copy and you can add it into the video. But it was So this is like when Jenkos were big.
Oh yeah.
And I was wearing, so everything I wore, all my pants were getting bigger and bigger.
Wider and wider.
Yeah. And we were making our own clothes. So I was like telling my guy, like, no, I need them baggier, I need them bigger, right? So I was like, so we took a photo of my pants, and I had like my chain wallet, it was like 93 chain wallet, Jenkos, the classic look, right?
Yeah.
And so we took my bottom, and then we took the Pope's top, and we put it on him, and we did even the Pope Where's Our Dope was our ad, and it was like funny because we did it on Easter, like yesterday was Easter, right? So on Easter in Amsterdam, which is actually like a pretty big Easter is a pretty big holiday because it's tourist orientated, right? So like you can really like, whoa, the town is just packed with people on Easter,
right? And
all the Italians come up, and they were like, they couldn't believe that I had printed the Pope. They thought it was like blasphemous. Oh, it was the worst thing ever. You cannot do that with the Pope. I was like, come on, it's what are you talking about? But that was one of our first things that we did that I was super like proud of. My ad.
You've always been kind of like, there's a theme here, like with these names and.
Oh yeah, you gotta
get people's attention.
It's always about.
I like it. It's like marketing. It's smart. It's.
It's the New Yorker in me, I think, is what it is. It comes down like I'm always trying to figure out the little angles to make it sort of stand out if you can.
Make people remember it.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by World Needs Cannabis. There are only so many hours in the day. And after work, I don't want to have to drive to the dispensary, fight traffic, stand in line, talk to the bud tender that just wants to sell you whatever they have the most of. That is not my favorite way to spend my time. World Needs Cannabis lets you shop from your couch, browse a hand-selected menu, take your time, and read the descriptions, see what you're buying. Anything you pick there, you can't really go wrong. They ship discreetly, they ship to most states, and they have new flavors coming in every week. It's like a cannabis tasting menu delivered to your door. Go to worldneedscannabis.com, use code STASH25 for 25% off of your order. This episode is brought to you by Puffco. In the past, you've needed water, bangers, torches, butane, Q-tips, alcohol, a whole damn backpack to get high. Puffco makes it easy. One device, one button, one pocket-sized setup. Glass is for the home. Keep it there where it belongs. Puffcos are for real-life adventures. Go to puffco.com, get yourself one today. And hey, you can always customize the tops too. You should probably do that. What's up with the Vindicator? Because I heard about this.
Okay, so the Vindicator is the modern version. So in '93 we did. So okay,
who made it? Which glassblower?
Cowboy.
Chris Kerner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jason is a good friend, and basically, so in '93 or '94 it might have been even. Jason Harris came over to Amsterdam with his whole crew, with Jordan and everybody, right? The whole crew. They're about 6 of them deep. And there wasn't really anybody selling glass too much in Amsterdam. Like, we were the only people that had any knowledge of American glass at the time. There was like, later on, Baba opened up. I don't know if you ever went to Baba when you were there. They were like one of the few head shops. There's like 3 or 4 places in Amsterdam that actually appreciated American glass. Like, for the most part, it was way too expensive, and people didn't get it, right?
There was one guy, and he had his like decal, his name, and I can't think of the name, and it was like everywhere. An American guy.
Shiva glass? Was it?
No, it was like, I'll have to think of it. But
not Carl, not Termini.
Not Carl Termini. No, it was like kind of like production looking a little bit, and it was like... I can't think of his name, but
so there was African Ash who was there for a long time. So basically, so it was really
Roar had a store there too, right?
Exactly. And what I can give you a Roar story too in a second.
Oh yeah, please. I like Martin.
Oh, Martin, he's awesome. No, we love Martin.
Fam.
We love but he so
he's amazing.
So. I'll put the Vindicator on the side for a second, and I'll give you a kind of a. I want to give you a brief.
I reached out to Cowboy today, and said,
nice.
I wanted to talk to him about.
He doesn't know the name Vindicator, but he'll know if you say nitrous bong, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, there's only one nitrous bong that I made." But we'll get back to the Vindicator in a second. So in '93, when we had when we opened up CIA, this is like, I was sitting there one day and I love to make videos. Didn't really have anywhere to show these videos because there was no YouTube or nothing like that. But I was always like, you know, I loved,
had a passion for it.
I was always had a camera and I was always fucking around. And so sitting there one day and just by myself, bored. And I was like, you know what? I've never seen myself do a bong hit. I'm going to videotape myself doing a bong hit just to see what I look like while I do a bong hit, right? So I set up the camera and I sit in this chair and I lined it all up, took a big hit, fucking, you know, did the classic, you know, and then my idea was like, I was like, you know what? Okay, now if I keep, if I first I put my hand off the camera, take the bong, take the hit, hand it off, then the next person does the same thing and they grab the thing. I would create like an illusion that they're grabbing it, and then the next person do the endless bong hit. That was my idea.
Wow.
Didn't work at all, right? I did mine. I did it first. Then I showed my friend. He didn't do it. And then it was like, well, fuck it. You already did the bong hit, so it's not going to work. And so I was like, I didn't want to erase it. You know, I was like, fuck it. But idea was there at least. But anyway, the beauty part of it all was that I had an 18-inch graphics. And the graphics had those like cocktail sort of bowls. Remember the wide kind of cocktail shaped bowls? So if you took that and you had a screen in it and you filled it up with fresh trichomes out of the pollinator, so I had the pollinator and I'd make my 30-meter hash, right? Which was, I would basically run it for like 30 seconds and get the best of the best. And then that was it. Right? And then I would
run it for 30 seconds.
The pollinator.
Okay.
Right. So I'd put the weed in there, run it for 30 seconds.
And that's the best.
And it would be like real crystal. You could see that it was like, ooh, yeah, it was like, it would stick. Basically, when you pull the thing out and turn it sideways, it would stick. You know, I'd be like, all right, this is the shit right here. So I'd scrape that up and do 1/10 of a gram, which would pretty much melt. It was kind of melty, pre-melty without knowing what melty was. And put it in there because it would disappear. That was my whole thing. I'd be like, dude, it just disappears. It's fucking awesome. So I'd put it in there and then I tell people, okay, here's the rules. You sit in the chair. I got the video camera. You're gonna take as long as you want to hit on it to get it up to the top of the thing, and then you can take a breath, do whatever you want to do. When you clear it, though, I'm gonna start the timer. 10 seconds. You gotta hold it. So you have to hold your hit.
Oh, I heard about this.
And then
the 10-second hold it.
Exactly.
Challenge. Yeah.
And then
this is the trichome challenge.
Trichome challenge, exactly. And so then you would and retain
People were going.
What?
Snot coming out of the nose. I heard.
Yeah, snot bubbles, all the good stuff. Blowing back into it, shooting it back into their face. Gosh. I mean, we had everything. But it was
all on video too.
Yeah. Oh. And we would replay, because it was like 93, so there wasn't the best technology as far as like slow motion and stuff, but we'd try, we'd reverse it, freeze it, try to get it on the spot. But it was and then you have to retain your composure for the remainder of a minute, right? So it's like hold it 10 seconds, but then after you can't cough and blow fucking nothing. You have to be like, okay,
no coughing either.
No, yeah, that's the whole point. You don't win if you don't. If you cough, you're out.
Anybody?
Oh yeah, people did, but I have like Ed Rosenthal failing. I've got a lot of failures, which is great. I was going for failures. I was like, give me the failures, And it was, the funny part was that all the American friends that would come through could just like nothing. Half of them were like, that was great. But all the Europeans were just fucking disasters because none of them, they'd be holding it like this or, putting their mouth around it. I'd be like, what are you doing, dude? You're blowing it? No, Jesus. Like, I was like, no.
They didn't know how to use this thing.
They had no idea. So for them, it was their very first bong hit.
And it was a graphics, you said?
Yeah, graphics.
Is that acrylic?
No, it was glass, but it was like just your straight tube.
Tube, yeah.
Straight tube.
Okay.
And so my other friend Keith, who was one of the Sour Diesel guys, he would come over to Amsterdam and bring like whole cases over to me, and we trade. He'd bring me all the tubes, and then he'd bring me a million slides, and that's when I figured out, you take the down stem, and you would use that for the laminate. So I'd roll the laminate, stick it into the down stem, and put some cardboard at the end of the down stem and smoke that, and it'd be like perfect. So it was like, because I was getting 100 packs of down stems, But anyway, yeah. So it was, so at the time there was nobody with glass in Amsterdam. It was all bullshit. It was all acrylic and crap, and any glass thing was not borosilicate. And then when we opened up, that we started to get then Americans would start bringing cases. We'd trade out for there was times where especially people would come over with great ideas and couldn't sell shit, because nobody was like, what? Forget about it. So on the way out, it'd be like, well, you're not taking it home, right? It's like, let's do it. So we always had a really, really good glass collection. And then people started moving there. Like, so then there was a guy, Shiva Chris, who was pretty good. He had some skills, but he was a rage. We're talking glass blowers moving to Amsterdam. So of course they're all fucking out of their minds. You know what I mean? Most of them are there for a reason, and it's not to better themselves in any way, shape, or form. So he was out of control. He's unfortunately left us too, but he was out of control. But he was doing his thing. He was working at the cannabis college. So he was kind of like down there helping them out. Okay. Then Carl moved there, which was awesome because Carl was like an amazing artist. And then
he was good. I remember Carl.
And you have Hans, which was his partner.
Hans. I met Hans.
Hans is awesome.
Yeah.
Hans is like...
He was from Rotterdam.
Yeah. And he's like
Hans,
next level precision guy who was just super scientific before scientific was cool. And so he
was mixing that with like functional too.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome to watch the whole thing develop. And then here's my Martin story though. So then Martin's doing his roars, and I'm like, we need to fucking step this shit up. I'm like, we need double chambers. We need perks. We need this. Like, because I see Carl's got the skills to just do it. Like, he's like amazing. And so he comes, so him and I were sort of coming up with ideas. So it was really funny. We did like I was like, I need a pipe with I don't want a hole at the bottom. I need a hole on the side. So when I making my hash and it's all melty, I can stick I have this, like an ember kind of thing, which is basically a heating element, but it's called, it is the Fedor, right? So it's Phedor, and it's Fedor, and it's these guys from Cali that brought it over, and it was like it's like a black box with a little heating element. It plugs directly into the wall, and it's fucking it's on.
Hot knife.
Yeah, it's on. There's no like it's the most dangerous thing ever made. But
we got some bad.
Yeah.
Tattoos.
Everybody got burned from it. It didn't matter, or things got melted on your table or whatever. But the thing is, so I had to make me a bowl with like 2 holes on the top on the side, so you could stick the thing in there. It's like just like things, and then I see it now. It's like that is the thing, and I'm like, what's doing there, But so then Carl and Hans were like the perfect partnership because Hans was learning how to do stuff from Carl, and Carl was learning from him. And then Martin saw the pipes and he goes, you guys and your SNOB pipes, right? And I'm like, that's the name of our pipe, SNOB. So we did a SNOB line. I don't know if you ever heard of SNOB. Yeah, that was me and Carl together. So it was my designs, Carl making them, and then Hans took it over, and Hans kept running with it. And I'm like, Hans, come on, dude, you can come with it.
I met Hans when he was SNOB.
He's still SNOB. Yeah, I know, but that was me. I came up with SNOB.
Are you serious?
Martin came up with SNOB. I said that's the name. Let's run with it. My other friend made the logo, which was SNOB.
I love Hans, man. He was always so nice.
And then later, it's just funny because I saw it and I was like, oh, he's still running with the SNOB. I can't believe it. His
Instagram is...
I wouldn't doubt it.
SNOB.
Is it?
I think so.
There you go. Well, anyway, that was us.
That's the name. Well, you inspired that.
Yeah, and then...
So did Martin. That's a great story.
Yeah, Martin said it, and I was like, that's a great name. So then we ran with it. And then every year for the Cannabis Cup, we would... have Carl make us something ridiculous. You know what I mean?
For the actual chalice? Or the
cup? For the cup, because so there's always a glass competition. So it was perfect because I was like, dude, I got my in-house glass guy right here. He doesn't have to fucking fly over. People be coming from the States with their shit, and it was always like sketchy because you got to get it through and really not allowed to, and then how are you going to bring it back? And you know what I mean? It's just all these like bullshit. I was like, no, this is perfect. We have all a year to figure this out. So every year we'd step it up. So if you look online on YouTube and you look up SNOB, High Times Cannabis Cup SNOB, you'll find we made one of about that tall. It was huge. It was like gigantic
for a cup.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Carl blows this thing. It's fucking awesome. And we have it at my booth, and we had put it on this like triangular fucking wheel thing, and we had it. Yeah, triangle, right? Now that I think about it, I'm like, why were we thinking triangle was a good idea? But it kind of like fit the whole thing, and we had it so we could like wheel it out, wheel it back. And we had people come into the booth, and there's this great video where it's like the same guy who I was just saying who did the design for the logo, my friend Terry, he is taken, so he's like basically just demonstrating for everybody nonstop, right? He's like, oh, let me show you how to do it. Let me show you how to do it. Because most people couldn't even hit. This thing was like, it was about that big around. Like it was a beast.
They didn't know how to hit roars back then?
Well, this is so big that it was just, nobody could hit it, because this is this tall. It's fucking from the ground that tall. It's like 3.5 foot. And it's this big around. I went for the biggest mega thing you could ever do. I'm like, we're going to win this just by ridiculousness, And so Terry's taking a hit. And we already won. We won the cup. We got first place, but right before we have to go up to figure out who's going to win, Terry's like, let me just do one more hit here, right? So Terry fucking goes up. Takes a huge hit, and in the video, because we've repeated it so many times, it's like it turns into like a little bit, because it's like because he steps on the back and it flips over on the side and just shatters, and then you hear everybody go, oh! And then we just played that on loop like over and over, and then we went up and won. We were like, well, we won, it's gone, and never see it again. You know what I mean? It was a classic. Yeah, and then the year after that, I had him make me like 40 or 50 fucking tubes coming off of one hookah. It was like a mega hookah for a crowd, Wow. But then he kind of like fucked up, and he like the hose size was just a little too small, and then everybody competing with each other just made it impossible, because you know how it is when even with two people on a hookah, if you're not timing it, you're gonna be like you're sucking, and we're like competing. So we kind of fucked that one up, but that's on video and out there. You can see that one there, and then and then he helped me make the original leaf blower. So that was and that was in 2003. And so the leaf blower was basically, at first I had a regular leaf blower, and I had a ceramic chillum that I made with a built-in screen at the bottom, and I put that in. I had 3 of them made, so I could slide it in, take it out, slide it in. And that one was like, so we did that. It was good, but it was very sketchy, because it was like still the screen wasn't like, still embers were coming through, and it was a little bit like, all right, I gotta. So then I had Carl make me one with water, so that it had to go through water, which made a huge difference, because now there was no embers coming through. But we didn't have a way to attach it properly, so it was kind of balancing on the top of this thing. And if you watch the video, which if you look up THC's leaf blower, it'll definitely pop up, High Times Cannabis Cup. And so my premise that year was, well, since everybody's bothering me for weed all the time, like, I was like, you know what, fuck it, we're smoking it all right now, right here, let's do it, you know what I mean?
I decided to smoke my entire head stash with you guys at once, since this is what happens every Cannabis Cup anyway. And then every time anybody asks me for another sample after this, I'm going to tell them, did you come to my show? I smoked all my weed at the show.
And so I dumped in, and it's funny because the numbers get so inflated. Like, I put a pound in. I was like, I put about 100 grams in, maybe less than that, even probably about 60 grams. But I put in the thing that killed it was I was making hash, and I just like, you know what? We're going to put a little hash in here.
Throw some bubble hash on there too, why the hell not, right? Just to make everybody's day.
And I like dumped it, right? And that's so volatile that once it really started going, there was flames shooting out of it. And I was trying to keep it under control, because I'm like on stage in front of all these people. There's all these Japanese guys up in the front. The Japanese guys are like fighting to get in there the whole time. And it's cranking. Like, if you watch the video, it fucking kills it, but it gets stopped by whoever's there. Like, if there's a whole bunch of people right here, the smoke kind of hits you, and then those people leave, and then the next people kind of leave, and it kept going, and it kept working its way backwards. And so you see it, like, it's kind of crazy.
The whole place.
Oh yeah, and this club is like, it's the most famous club in Amsterdam now, and like you can never get away with this shit anymore. It was like we were so lucky for timing that like we didn't tell nobody what we were doing. We just did it. And at the end, it was epic, and everybody loved it. And the great part is that I got to meet people over the years who were in the audience, and it's just awesome to hear, like, from the other side. You know what I mean? They're like, dude, it was the greatest day of my life, the greatest moment in the history of cannabis. You know what I mean? And it really was like just a basic epic thing.
No one's ever done that before with a weed blower, do you think, before that?
I'll tell you exactly where I got the idea from. So if you look in Rob Clark's book, the Hashish book, it's called Hashish, which I'm in there too, so it's kind of nice to be in there. But a couple photos of me in there and some other stuff. But in that book, there's a guy who takes a bowl and puts it on his head, and he takes a leaf blower and he sticks it into the bowl, right? And he's got put it like a helmet basically thing. And I was like, ooh, a leaf blower, like that's a good idea. I'm like, no, I could work with this, you know? And so went and got one, converted it, figured it out, like, okay, this is going to work. But when I did, so the funny part too is, like, when I went there and did it that time, that was the first time ever with that new setup, you know, is always the same. I never get a chance to test anything. I'm like, nope, we're doing it live, you know, R&D live, R&D live in people's faces.
Yeah, but it was the hash. You think it was working good until that hash went on?
I mean, the hash made it good, but it made it really dangerous. It was so dangerous that at one point, and then I had another guy, this guy Alex, and he had literally had his books, right? Like his books where he keeps all his finances, all his deals, like, you know, just total, you know, classic old school, like, yeah, fucking Bobby owes me $20 or whatever. So he has his book, the leather bound book, and he's using that to to keep the fucking flames from getting too out of control, like covering the bowl, and then you'd pull it off and it'd be okay, and then it'd come up again, you know what I mean? But if you watch the video too, it's hilarious. Have to watch that video. It's hilarious because the timing was just amazing, right? So like I'm doing like smoke signals at one point where I'm going like TH seeds is the, and then I hit bomb, and then boom, the smoke comes. Like, dude, you couldn't time it better. Like, this is crazy, you know? So yeah, it was a good moment. And I had my friend DJ Mateo, and he was spinning, and it was like do you remember the band the Fun Loving Criminals? From way back in the 90s.
Fun Loving Criminals.
From back in the like back in the 90s, like they did the Scooby Snacks.
Scooby Snacks. Running around.
Yeah. So anyway, so Mateo,
that.
who's the DJ, and they're all the same age as me, like they're same exact age, and they're big stoners. And when I first met them, they were friends of another friend of mine. I thought they were a hip hop band with that by the name. I'm like, oh, Fun Loving Criminals, gotta be hip hop, you know what I mean? And then I meet him, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This has got nothing. Like, I was like, oh, it's kind of, I guess, but they're awesome guys. Like, they're such awesome guys, and they blew up so big in Europe. It was like one of those funny things where, like, in New York nobody cared, but in Europe they were doing stadiums and festivals, and so we got lots of props. They were like my favorite weed band because, again, they were New Yorkers, same age, loved weed. Mateo, the DJ, loved the weed the most. Like, everybody else loved weed, but he loved the hash. I just love the hash, Adam. So they were like one of the first laminates that I did, and their logo was a New York City badge for their logo, so it looks like perfect. You know, you put a lanyard on, and it's like a New York badge, like an undercover cop filled with hash. Couldn't get more, like, you know, poetically perfect.
Poetically perfect.
You know, and that was awesome. But back to glass. So then you got Shiva, then African Ash. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's like the guy that was doing the dragons, right? So he was doing those dragons that were kind of like one hand this way, one hand that way, so that technically when you put them next to each other, you could, like, kind of like my video, you could hold hands, you know what I mean? So the idea was you take a bunch of them. This one, the left and the right are always opposite. So like and he made these like dragons that were shaped like this, straight pipe, kind of like great seller, but very, like, you know, very impractical. Like, I'm going to pull out my giant glass fucking dragon pipe, you know, but he killed it it was like the perfect thing to sell to tourists who, just because it's kind of like half art, half, you know what I mean? It's like something
I went to Amsterdam, now I have this dragon pipe.
Yeah, and it's like something you could put that onto your mantle and it wouldn't just look like some fucking Sherlock, you know what I mean? Like, oh, hello, you know? But he was, and the funny thing is, he was living in a squat called the Elf, real famous. It was an old Belgian embassy, right, which had been squatted. So it has like the sickest building, and I think it was 5 floors. The elevator, taking the elevator up the stairs, up each floor. Every floor that opened up was like another room in an insane asylum, because it was all these squatters who were like we had a glass blowing studio on one floor. Then you go to the next floor and it's like a disco club thing. Then you with all side trance going on. And then you go to the next floor and it's a bunch of people doing yoga or doing something else. Then you go to the next floor. It was just like the wackiest fucking building. And you know how the squats were there. It was like always a party, always something going on. But so for him, like he had free power. You know, he's got a kiln with free power in Amsterdam. You know, all the squats are like that. They're all stealing power, and you know, it's all crazy. So,
is it still like that?
Very rare, far and few between. Most of them have been given the option to like, okay, if you guys are ready to buy it, we'll do that. But otherwise, get the fuck out. You know, so. There was a moment in time where Amsterdam there were squats everywhere and it was fucking amazing. I never lived in one. I always paid for I didn't really want to be on the move all the time. I was like, I got too much crap. I need to grow. You know what I mean? I got to have a house. Mm-hmm. And I also had those cheap apartments in the beginning. So I was like, dude, why would I not have that? You know, but yeah. So then, like I was saying earlier, there was very far and few between people selling glass. And then the funny part was that the Indian glass kicked in right around 98, 99. And all of a sudden, like every piece that came out, like first, like Inside Out work, remember when that first started happening? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, some Indian guy, I didn't know exactly who it is, this guy I knew, came into my store, was like, oh, seeing what's selling, you know what I mean? Boom. Comes back a few weeks later for like pennies on the dollar, super thick, really well done, like to the point where you're like, actually, there's a pretty nice sidecars, bubblers. You know, he pretty much copied every fucking thing
from India.
Yeah,
so that's where they were first being produced.
Yeah,
like out of the country.
Yeah, that was like the first ones that I mean, obviously China always is like. There's always been like large scale head shop Chinese bullshit pipes, but these were like the first guys that were like taking American. Styled, you know, good, like new, like, oh, they see somebody doing a wig-wag or they see somebody, take it back to them. These guys would figure it out, come back. You know, some of them were pretty cheesy, but sometimes they would nail it, you know, and other times, you know, never let them.
Nepal, that's where like someone was ripping every single piece I posted on my Instagram.
Oh,
and they were like,
I wouldn't doubt it.
What's the matter with you? Like, it's a compliment that we're ripping you off. And
I totally can imagine it too, because they are masters at you know, stealing fucking people's work, you know,
decades, for years.
It's and then
so did you buy them pennies on the dollar?
You know, at first I was trying to like fight against it, like no, and then I just was like, dude, all right. And then all of a sudden I was like, God, I'm making some, like, you can make money now finally, because the problem with most of the high end glass that we had was like, you know, you had to explain why, what, where, whereas if it was something where there was priced, and then it made it really hard because now you got these fucking pieces over here that are, you know, because the guy next door to me was selling them, so it's like I can't charge more, so it was like
keep the lights on.
Yeah, and you want to, you know, you always want to make some.
Plus you're stealing the electricity.
That's true, but I would also, you know, at a certain point I figured out, well, we got to help them out and give them the right things to make, and kind of custom did it, you know. So it was interesting to see, but that was like sort of, there was a moment like around 99, 2000 where it was kind of like getting somewhere, you know, you could see the glass sort of emerging into the industry, but it was always a tough sell because most of the people that wanted to buy glass were traveling back to, like, they don't want it. They either, it's like, if you're buying seeds, you're not buying glass, you know what I mean? So it's like
red flag when you're going across the border.
Yeah. So I would like tell people not to buy glass. If you just bought a bunch of seeds off of me, don't buy fucking glass. You'd be fucking dumb. Like that's gonna get you in trouble. You know what I mean? Send it home if anything, but don't give them fucking two crimes, one crime at a time, please. You know what I mean? Don't double up. But yeah, it was. Then there was like you know, some, like I said, some sort of every year with the cup. Oh, you know, what's funny too is I had 1 year where, what is his name, from Burlington, Vermont, does all the plasma pipes. Oh, what is? Burn. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. His stuff's amazing.
Yeah,
dude.
So he came
like
over.
An alien glass blower. Okay, tell me a story about him.
Okay, so him and his wife came over to Amsterdam 1 year, and they brought the first plasma pipes over, and I was like, dude, this is fucking. I couldn't believe it. Right, so he had a hookah, and you know, that year for the cup, it was funny. It was one of these years where, so
is it like the Roar collabs kind of?
this is pre-Roar. This is like their first trip over to Amsterdam that they brought over their pieces before they went and worked with Martin. So it was like, I was like, all right, you're in with us. We're doing this. And it was like, it was a funny year because it was, so the whole thing about the cup was because we helped organize it that first year or that fifth cup, whatever, we kind of gave us a lot of insight to the reality of how it all works. So we knew exactly who to stroke, when, where, and what to win. But it also, like, you could only do that so many times because once they knew that you knew, they're trying to, like, who's the new fresh meat around? Let's fucking, that's the new winner. Because this was a bunch of bullshit, half of it too. So I already knew it was like, I don't even care about winning the weed category, because for me, the weed category was always some shiesty shit going on, who's stroking who, like, I already knew that
it's paid for or something.
Well, it wasn't even paid for. It's sort of like, it's a story. It's a story. So we'd already been the new kids on the block a few times. We'd already did our thing.
Okay. Yeah,
so it was like, so they're going to be like, fuck Adam. He's already won. Let's get the new guy. Oh, DNA guys or whoever, like someone else got to win to make it all fresh. So all I wanted to win was best booth every year. So my whole thing was, dude, I'm going to do the sickest booth every year. I've never won. I never won. Yeah. Every year my booth would get bigger and more ridiculous. Right. So, that year when the Burn guys came over, what's his name again though?
Burn Weinmeier or something?
No, Burn is the glass blower, is the glass company though, but it's the guy's name is something else.
Tito?
Tito, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
You're talking about Burn Gallery.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about
Tito.
Crazy glass blower like in Europe that did like the ray guns with Roar and Be Real.
Oh, that was later. Yeah, that was way later.
That's Burn Weinmeier.
Okay, that's funny. No, because I was talking about Tito, because Tito brought over those.
Tito.
He brought those over in way earlier than there was no. Yeah. And so
Pipe Classic, and he's Burlington, Vermont. Yep. Tito and Michaela.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, they're really cool people.
They're very hospitable.
Super good. And so anyway, they brought those pieces over. I had them in one as my glass entry. I'm like, so we're gonna win glass and we're gonna win best booth. So my year that year, what I decided to do is I built the Empire State Building, right? So
Empire.
Yeah. So it was in a church, right? And the church had the main floor was where all the booths were at, and then there was like an upper deck. And then the church top, so it was really fucking high up. So I went in there, figured out, okay, I'm taking 4 scaffoldings. I put 4 scaffoldings on top of each other. And then I went out and bought some, the silver bubble shit you put under your floors, the insulation stuff that if you're going to put down a new floor. So that stuff's super cheap. You can buy like a 100-foot roll for like $6 or something stupid. So I bought that and I painted windows on them. I rolled them out, painted all windows. And then I went up, put the scaffold, I went in there into the booth, built my booth straight up, and then rolled down those on the side with windows. And then I put like a top on it, like the Empire State Building top. I had a friend of mine. Had a friend,
like 3 stories tall.
four scaffoldings tall, right? So it's like, pretty fucking dangerous and stupid. Like, definitely would not get past. Like, the thing is, it was so big, people couldn't see it because you'd be standing next to it, going like, "What the fuck is this?" Holy shit, dude, this is crazy. So we went nuts, right? So that year, I'm like Kanye vibes, where I'm like, I got fucking monkeys, I got fucking this, I was going into full mode, right? And then the funny part was this porn star was a friend of ours, Misty Rain, used to come every year for the cup, and so we had Misty. I was like, all right, you're gonna dress up like you're the chick, and I got my friend dressed up as a monkey, so he's got the monkey suit on. He's gonna climb up the thing. You're gonna go to the top. I got plants all around the top, so if you're up on the upper deck, you can see like the whole thing from the top. So it was like you go up top and look down. I'm like, if this doesn't win best fucking booth, I don't know what's gonna, right? So I'm putting all my things. Then this fucking, I guess I'm not allowed to say midget anymore, but whatever. Midget guy, super cool, like exactly like fucking Wee Man, like same vibe, like skateboarder, young guy. He comes over and he's like, "Is that Misty Rain?" And I'm like, yeah. He's like, "Dude, that's my favorite porn star." So all of a sudden I got a fucking midget, a porn star, a monkey. I'm like, dude, I am killing it. This is the best. I'm going to win. I don't win for, who wins? Greenhouse, of course, right? It's just a big, like, it shows you how stupid it is. Like, the reality is like, so wait a minute. And then I look over their booth. they took a bunch of High Times magazines, cut them up to take the pictures, and made a collage and put it on one wall of a pop-up tent. And by the end of it, it was just a dilapidated tent with nothing because nobody was even watching it or anything. And I'm like, that's who won? Like,
wow.
Because their whole thing is they're like all about like, you vote for us for everything, vote for us for everything, vote for us for everything, you know? And so no one's really objectively voting for best booth. The best booth is a complete, like, you know, it's a total, like, knows as many people. Yeah. Who knows who's had the biggest party, had the biggest party and done whatever.
Like the biggest party. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was one of those years where I was so mad. So I went up on stage, like, and then I won for weed that year, right? For the hog, right? So I won for the hog.
Oh, really?
Right. That
No
year.
way.
So that year.
That's tasty.
And I was so pissed off because I was like, dude, I was like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I was like, dude, I had fucking monkeys. I was like, did the total Kanye, like fucking, you don't even know. You people are stupid.
Did you see my booth?
Yeah, exactly. You didn't see my, I don't even care. Oh, fuck it. I guess I won. Yeah.
I guess I won.
Everyone was like, why are you so bitter? I was like, dude, that's all I wanted to win was, I didn't even care about the weed that year. Like I did, but it was like the last minute thing I threw. And actually that was the hog that won that year was grown at Willie's friend's house. The guy that I was telling you about, Freaky Sean. This guy, his father-in-law, I was teaching his father-in-law how to grow. And then that guy hit me up like maybe 6-7 years ago or something like that. And he's like, Adam, I just want to thank you, man. You put me on my career. I still use you as my, like, I won the, like, he still tells people he won he did. It was his weed. He grew it. I gave him the genetics. He won. He grew it. But that was his calling card for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Was that
fame.
But that year was like, I was so mad because I was like, you know, I thought I was going to, I had to do so much effort into it. And yeah, every year was always the same. It was always like, how can I top the last one? You know, I built a train. We did a train. We had a strain, which was train wreck times Afghan. And so that year I was all about the scaffolding. Every year was like, how can I make skin the scaffolding to make it? And so I took just 2 levels that time, but the top level was a train coming out of the wall, and the bottom part looked like the train things. And it was so well put together. Like because we went and printed up these. We thought we were printing them on material, and when we got it, it was all paper. And I was like, dude, this is the most dangerous booth in all Cannabis Cup history. A giant paper fucking flammable train with us smoking, everybody smoking inside of it. And I was like, this thing, I hope it doesn't go up. But yeah, it was crazy.
Wow.
And then
so you went hard on your booths.
Oh yeah, and then leaf blower wise, it was like I would always incorporate a leaf blower somehow into the picture. We did so we went and we entered Dark Star one year, and so the Dark Star, and it was funny because it was the Dark Star Orchestra was playing in Amsterdam, and my friend flew out from New York, and then my other friend Terry, the kid who broke the pipe earlier, he was like, "You got to name the strain Dark Star, mate." And then I was like, "Oh, okay." I knew nothing of the Dead or any, I knew about the Dead, but I wasn't like connecting it to anything with the Dark Star Orchestra. But it was just funny because in the end it was. So I was thinking space, and then it's another video. It's another video you can watch online if you go on YouTube and you look up TH Seeds moon landing. So basically, in 2009, they found water on the moon. Right, that was the first. Okay. That's the first time they located it. So I was like, oh, cool, Cannabis Cup's coming up. We're gonna do all space themes. You know, so Dark Star. We're launching the Dark Star. We fucking made our jacket. We had our white jackets. We put like visors inside the hoods, made a video of us going to the moon. We flew to the moon. We planted some seeds, you know, and so it's even funnier because then when the moon landing was going on the other day and everybody was like making their memes, I was like, dude, I did this fucking 18 years ago. Like, come on, guys.
Wow.
Catch up.
Ahead of your time, man.
But yeah, we did the Dark Star. And so then that year what we did is we made a rocket. Same situation as the other place. I made a rocket so big that I couldn't even fit it into the club. I had to like take it apart to get it into the back door of this club. And then we put it on I rented a scissor lift. So I had a scissor lift with a big giant rocket attached to the side of it. And then we had a leaf blower at the bottom coming out like smoke, and then I had one of those UFO lights, the first sort of LEDs that came out. So I had that mounted at the bottom, so you had the LED light. Rockets. Yeah, so it was like, but I totally, again, didn't test it. Everything fucking went flawless except for one problem, which was the fucking UFO light has a fan built into it, which is blowing the wrong direction. So it was fighting the smoke that was trying to come out. Like the smoke was coming out and getting pushed back up. So it's sort of like people were like, where's this? Okay. You know, so everyone was getting up underneath it. Because then what we did was we lifted the scissor lift like the rocket was taking off, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody was going underneath it, but the smoke was just going up instead of down. So it was a little bit of it was getting all snargulated. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a fuck up, but it was another one.
R&D live. I guess it's
always live. No, we couldn't do it. We literally it was like me in the north, at the place in the north in Amsterdam, but not at our spot at a big warehouse. Did you go to the NDSM when you were there? They have the graffiti.
The museum?
Yeah.
I've been to that graffiti museum.
Okay, so in that building, there's a building across the street from there, which is like the actual original NDSM, and there's a village. It's like an indoor art village there. Did you go there?
I feel like I did.
It's like there's these like everyone has their own little fucking zones where they can just do whatever the fuck they want. So they build all these crazy, like there's one guy's got.
I did go there.
Okay, so in that build, that was my favorite place because my friend had a spot there for 20 years, way before there was a museums and all that stuff. That used to be the industrial wasteland. It's exactly where I used to drive. I used to go there that was where the boat was docked that I was working on back in the day. So, and there was nothing out there. It was just a boat and a dock.
Wow. So it's really been gentrified.
And then there was those big buildings that were there were the old shipyard. And then they converted that into art place. And then it became, all of a sudden now there's all these apartments around there. And I go up there and I'm like, this is crazy, dude. Nothing was here before. So I'd go in that building. I was in that building scrapping together. I was like envisioning this rocket and I was figuring it all out. And somehow, now when I look back, I'm like, dude, I don't even know how we pulled that one off. Like that was like a full on, just throwing it all together at the last second as usual, that was, but that was a good one. Many cannabis cups. And then when I came here, do you remember did you go to the thing that was in 2010, I think? Were you here in 2010?
In Colorado?
Yeah, not yet. No. Okay, so 2010 they had a thing called KushCon. I believe it was down at the convention center. And so there was a place called Mayflower here back in the day that was down on 14th and Market. And this friend of mine, Mitra, her brother owned the building, and he was like he was an Iranian guy who owned all the parking lots around in Denver, made a lot of money, saw the cannabis thing, was like, yes, we could do this, but he doesn't know nothing about anything. So I met Mitra. She was like, it was like the perfect sort of collab, I'll bring the genetics and we'll sort of make this happen. They had a beautiful, huge space, like 6,000 square foot space with wooden floors and all brick on the corner of 14th and Market. So it's looking out over the stadium. I got my own little office and everything. I'm like, wow, this is fucking sick. So anyway, we had a spot she's like, I got a booth at the convention center. I'm like, I got you. We need scaffolding, right? So we got scaffolding again. And I had...
At the convention center?
Yeah.
Denver Convention Center?
We pulled it up. Yeah, we pulled this.
Con?
Yeah, this is the one that they did in 2010. It's where I met Dredd and a bunch of people. But So it was funny. I was like, I know, I got the formula. You get a bunch of scaffolding, and then we went and printed up. I don't even know. Again, knowing how hard it is to print stuff on scale, like, I need a 40-foot long print, and how much it costs stuff. I don't even know how we pulled this off again. So I was like, printed two giant fucking banners that were, or a couple more even because it all had to connect, which was a giant Mayflower ship, right? And so I had that because it was called the Mayflower. So I was like, all right, we'll make a big ship, And then we had the hemp clothes. I had my hemp clothes. We had, we combined seeds, clothes, and did all that. And I had my friend Chris Bliss, who was an edible guy who was making, back in the day, the Keef Cats and all the original edibles that had like some branding to them, and before anybody was doing anything commercial. This is like 95, 96. And so he had, he was living here, and he was like, again, classic stoner shit where he like was making edibles underneath the fucking thing in the middle of the convention center because he had like, oh, I just got to do one more step, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I'd look down below and it'd be like, he'd be down there like a mad scientist, fucking mixing up stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, you're totally like, yeah, breaking every possible rule you could ever break, you know what I mean? It was just like, but it was funny too because it was like, once again we pulled it off. I was like, scaffolding is the way to go. It's like the cheapest, highest impact possible. You know what I mean? Because now everybody spends. Now I go to shows and people spend $100,000 on booths and stuff, and I'm just like, nah, you gotta go cheap and smart. That's the way to do those things. You know, if you can. Yeah. Otherwise, you end up spending all this money, and then you have to have the same setup everywhere you go, and you got to ship it around everywhere you go. Yeah. And it turns into like a huge money drain. You know,
like those double level ones that are all like decked out with glass cases.
I mean, it's nice, but it's like, whoa, what a
lot.
What an amount of money.
You can switch it up every year too with the theme.
Yeah, for sure.
So are you still? I guess are they still doing the Cannabis Cup or?
So I just heard they just did one in New Jersey, and it was like people were complaining like they didn't even do a blind taste test. They didn't even do it at blind. They had like branded weed in your judge's kit. It doesn't even make sense. Like, so that's not a cup, you know. That's just
that's just not a blind taste test. That's a branding.
Yeah. So that was
with the new ownership, right? There's the Josh and Matt Stone or Stang.
Stang, yeah. The Stanger. I've known Matt for a long time.
Have you?
Yeah, Matt's he's a funny one because Matt was there for the longest time, and his family were involved with High Times from a long time. So he was kind of like, you know, raised in that world.
Okay. And so his parents or his family.
Yeah, something. I mean, they had some investments in there, I believe, you know. So it was kind of like,
He wasn't the creator of High Times?
No. He's young. He's a youngin'. He's a youngin', but he's the Stanger. Yeah.
Stanger.
I love Matt.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Matt and Josh took it over. And I mean, the thing is, it's a hard one because High Times has, you know, it started off with Tom Forsyth and Ed Rosenthal. That was the original, you know, that's how it really started.
Really?
And then, and Tom was really awesome. Like, I don't know him because he died a long time ago, but he was one of those guys who was like proper, you know, really doing it for the right reasons. And 100% like, you know, he was like, right to the end, like smuggling and flying planes and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So he was definitely part of that, you know, the real deal. Went through a lot of stages. We were talking about on our show the other day, if you want to get more, because we had Ed and Danny Danko on there. So it was kind of like we got a little bit into the weeds there as far as the history. And it was, you know, the thing about High Times is it went through many owners. It was owned by the Kennedys. The Kennedys are lawyers, you know what I mean? And once it's in the hands of lawyers, it's like the money got sucked out. Which means the whole thing about cannabis is you got to reinvest, you know what I mean? You can't just suck the money out and expect it to the culture to keep going, you know what I mean? For the most part,
that's a good way to put
you
it.
know? And so that's the problem with that, is that they really, like, speaking of cups, there was when in 2000 and I'd say around, 2014 or something like that, or maybe might have been a little earlier. I went to Amsterdam. No, it might have been even the 2011 one. No, it had to be a little bit later, 1 year later or something like that. Anyway, I was in Amsterdam and I was just sitting in a room with a bunch of young kids who were like at their very first cup, you know, and all excited. And I was listening to and I was like, God, this is crazy. I can't believe that, you know, because what they were saying was nuts, because they were all working for High Times. This was like in the back room where all the kids, and so they're, you know, some were bitching and some were like, oh man, I gotta go to Switzerland tomorrow. And it's like, and I'm listening, I'm like, what's he going to say? Yeah, I gotta take all the money to Switzerland. Like, they were literally millions of dollars.
We looked at the numbers, actually, how they were making like 40 million or 30 million, but losing 40 million every year over and over until they bought it for 3.5 million.
Exactly.
And it was like tens of millions of dollars.
They were taking millions of dollars in mostly cash to Switzerland,
to those Swiss banks,
to put them in Swiss banks. And I'm just listening to these kids like, are you fucking kidding me? Did I hand this over to these fuckers like this? Like, just here's the formula. Because the whole reason, so the funny part was, is like I was saying earlier, when they were doing the cups before, they were doing like like we said, a couple guys hanging around, make an article, boop, done deal. When we did it, we were like, if you're going to ask us to do a cup, we want it to be like, all my friends want to come. So we're going to do an event. You're going to have categories, and we're going to do this. And so we basically created the framework for them, because we were like, hey, because they were like, we're bringing over 50 people, and they're all going to pay $200, right, for a ticket. And this is classic High Times, where they charge these people $200 for a ticket to the cup, but then in the back of their minds is like, and we're not giving these people anything, right? That's what they get, a ticket to the cup. And then they asked us to do the cup. So really, they're already on that tip of like, okay, so these guys are going to just organize a party, and they're going to do. They thought we were just going to
budget.
No, and we're so dumb, we're just young kids. So our brains are like 200 times 50 is 10,000. That's our budget, right? That's how our brains worked. That's our budget. There we go. Let's go spend the money. So of course, nobody to talk to yet. They're going to only get there when they get there. So we're thinking they're going to come and reimburse us for all the stuff we do. We keep all the receipts, and everything's going to be great.
Wow.
Because we're fucking idealistic, dumb kids. So we organized a club. We organized DJs. We organized fucking, I made a book. I went to all the shops, interviewed them, got their fucking information, took photos, tried to like do it as much, like in the book.
And you didn't charge for your time, just any expenses.
No, exactly.
So you're working like,
made like a flip.
Like full time on this for a little bit.
So we had it. So we started in July. I got the location on the 1st of July. We had till November to do it. So we had like 5.5, 6 months total, not even 6 months. And so I made a book. I did like a flip book with a little seed going in the ground and turning into a plant. Really? I put all this energy into this thing. I put Cannabis Cup on the outside, 1993 Cannabis Cup. Everybody had their entry. Arian was the last person to give us all we asked for from the shops. We're so dumb. We asked 50 guilders, $25 to enter. Right. So every shop had, because we knew if we asked for more, they probably wouldn't enter because they're cheap Dutch fuckers. Right. And so we were just anticipating the pushback. So we were like, yeah, $50, that's good. 50 guilders. Yeah, sure. If we get 20, that's like $1,000. It's like, whatever. We were like thinking way too small. And so we made the book, we did the party, we rented the place and stayed there forever at the CIA. We rented the CIA just for the cup because we knew it was big enough for the cup, but we also were going to make it into our store after the fact. But we were like, we can hope. And they were already like walking around poo-pooing it when they first got there. Like, this is where you're going to have it. We're like, well, we're having the after party's going to be at a club. Okay. And they were already like kind of giving us grief when they first got there. They had Sebastian Bach was one of the, so he had Sebastian Bach, some Chips Enough from the band called Enough's Enough, which was like a nothing band from back in the day. Paul Krasner was a really good author, so that was cool. Gateway Gabrith, which was a guy running for governor of Kentucky on the weed bill. So it was a lot of interesting, cool people. So it was
That's
like
who High Times brought.
That was their celebrities, yeah.
Okay.
And then they had so then we were explaining to them how it's going to all work. Celebrities are going to smoke the seed company weed because the seed companies cannot give weed to the public because how are they going to do that? Whereas they can't just hand weed to people. So it's kind of like we were already learning the hiccups that you will run into when you don't have a light, like, because it wasn't, it was like, and this is the funny part, all the people that came over, they thought they're getting free weed. Like, we're getting weed, right? And it's like, yeah, $200, that's a lot of weed, right? And you're like, no, you're getting like, so we were seeing something disconnect going on because we already like, oh, they think they're getting weed, okay, well here, and then I'm giving them weed, like did
you sell out all the tickets?
Yeah, we did pretty good. I mean, I had like, so they had already pre-done, theirs were done, so their Americans were coming over. We sold about 100 tickets total to locals, so it's like 100 locals, 50 Americans, and so it was a perfect number. 150 people is like the perfect size for a party. It's not too big, it's like everybody got to meet each other. It all went on really well. They brought the trophies for them. That was like the
metal ones,
the original ones with John the Ludwig hammer, fucking silver, nice ones. Mm-hmm. So to them, their job was done. They brought the trophies, right, and so they tried to do the old like, okay, we're done, we're done. And this is like the classic. This is where my partner Doug, it's like one of the most epic stories ever, as far as like he ever, like I wasn't there, so it's all through him. But there was a moment, like, so nobody's paid us, and we're kind of like, don't know how to ask and don't really know what to do, and we're a little bit in this weird zone. Like, are they gonna just go this? What's going on?
This is after the cup's almost
cup's
over.
Cup's over.
Okay.
These guys are ready to go home. Doug
haven't talked about it.
Yeah, no one's really like brought it. It's getting kind of weird. So all of a sudden, it's like we got to go to the airport. I'm like, all right. Doug's like, I'll take you guys. I got the van. He rented a van because we had done like a bus trip, took people around Holland. You know, we went above and beyond. We were like, we had the.
You guys are kind of responsible for setting the standard of the cup.
Well, we did the inside Amsterdam category, the outside Amsterdam category, and the seed companies. So we kind of tried to, because we had figured out quickly, like the more people that win, the better for this thing. If it's only one winner, that's no good. It's got to be and we made little. We did the classic, like everyone gets a trophy, but we made little like we took my laminator because I was doing laminates at the time. So I took the laminator and I made a bunch of laminates up that were like almost like placemats, but they were like the name of the shop and then this and entry and their name of their entry, and every single one of them, if you go into some of them probably still to this day hanging behind the thing proudly, like they loved it. But so then Doug's taking them all to the airport. And he's got this van, and he's loading them up, and he's driving along. So then Doug sort of says to Steve Hager, he's like, "Yeah, so here's all the receipts, and we were hoping to get the money to pay back for all because we still got to pay for the club, and we got to do this, and we go a little bit." And he was all, "I never asked you guys to do any of this."
Ooh.
Because he didn't. He asked Chris Conrad. Chris Conrad said, "You guys could do it, right?" And we were like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, Cannabis Cup, yeah, dude, of course." To us, it was like the best thing ever. But now the realization, like Doug had the realization, like, what? We're not going to get anything? What are you talking about? And he's like, "Yeah, I never asked you guys to do any of that. Like, I think it took. I would have done this." And he started to give Doug grief, and Doug stops the car in the middle of the highway. Like literally in the middle of the highway with cars going.
Oh my God.
And Doug just goes, "Dude, you better pull the fucking money out right now." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "No, I'm not. I'll stay right here. Well, fuck it, I don't care. Pull the money out." And he's like, "You're crazy." And then he's like, I might be crazy, but I'm not. I need to get that money. We owe money. We got to get that money. And he fucking reluctantly pulls out his fucking wallet and gives us, he didn't give us 10, but he gave us everything he had. Like, we just sucked. He's like, "Give us everything you got." He had like, I don't know, like $6,000 or something on him, but was like, "You just keep going.
Wow.
And he cashed him out. And then Doug took him to the airport and dropped him off. I was like, that is some baller move right there.
Crazy story.
Like, you got to be out of your mind to.
This episode is brought to you by Full Canopy Genetics. They have their $100 Grow Club, which gets you one of these grow bags every single month with a different strain in it. They're very low effort to grow. All you got to do is put them in a low light area and basically watch them grow. After they inoculate a little bit, you break and shake the bag, leave them, and in about 3 weeks, you have a full bag of beautiful mushrooms. Go to fullcanopygenetics.com and put in code STASH25 for additional discounts.
Because he was so mad. He just got so mad because he was like, "What? No, dude." Because we were all, we real. And this is the classic High Times, is that about a month later, a bunch of lawyers come over, sit us down, show Exhibit 1, what does this say right here? And I'd be like, "Oh, it says Cannabis Cup, 1993. We own that. We could sue. We could sue you for so much money. You printed the name Cannabis Cup. We own." It was like one of those stories. I was like,
"Whoa.
You own the word Cannabis Cup?" "Yes. Trademark. We've done it." I was like, I was like, "This sucks. You guys are a bunch." I couldn't believe it. So for me, it was like the quick learning curve of working with. I was like, "Holy shit." High Times is just like any other corporate American thing. You know what I mean? Like, they're straight to lawyers, straight to bullshit. You know what I mean? And so,
washing money or
and they said, you better not steal. You guys better not think you're going to steal this cup from us. And we were like, we had no intentions ever. We were like, no, we're just trying to make it better. or turn it into something. It was nothing before. What are you talking about?
Thanks for the idea.
And so, and we really, and because we wanted to, so the next year we thought, okay, well, at least they'll give us free booths and stuff, something.
For doing that.
All they gave us, so after the cup, they said, we get a free ad. We got one free ad.
For doing all that work.
Mm-hmm. So we made an ad, which was, this is another one of those classics where it's like, yeah, we figured that one out too. International Cannabis University, right? $5, send $5 to apply, because we figured, hey, we get that in there, maybe 1,000 people will apply and we'll make $5,000 and we don't have to do anything because we just say, oh, you're applying. We don't have anything figured out. And if they come over, we'll teach them some shit. So we put like hydroponic courses and so I had my friend who was an artist, and he drew this. He's a graffiti artist. He's really, really good. Made a really tight thing where it was like a book opened up, said hydroponics with an apple pipe with a fucking graphics bong, and it said and with smoke that it said International Cannabis University and smoke, ICU, right? And then what was hilarious was, nope, we got like 5 people that fucking sent us $5. 3 of them were in jail. Oh. They were like, when I get out of jail, I'm gonna do this. You know what I mean? Wow. So some high times ended up in a jail. People were in there like, dude, check this out. Fucking university in Amsterdam. We can go there. So it was like, and we knew already that they were from jail.
We can find one of those ads.
Well, we knew they were in jail because the lettering was so small, and it was like written like all around the edges, and like kind of like you'd get this card and you'd be like, holy shit, and you'd be reading it, and it's like one guy was like, I remember one guy, and then one guy sent us a bunch of opium seeds too, like a bunch of opium poppy
somniform, whatever.
Yeah, he sent it like, so I had this one guy. So basically we had one guy with opium poppy seeds who sent those to us, who was writing also in really, he wasn't in jail, but he probably was in jail before. And then we had 3 guys from jail and 1 normal-ish person, and that was it. And I was like, well, it didn't really pan out the way I thought it was. You know what I mean? I thought we were doing something smart, because how do you get people to give you money from an ad in High Times in America if you're living in Holland,
Yeah.
But then over the years, it was like, the funny part was that I became the anti-cup person for a little while there though too, because I got really pissed off at one point around 2000, I think it was. And then I did the fuck ups, right? Which was, so it was F-U-K in, yeah, it was F-U-K in red lettering, and then CUPS in blue lettering as one word, So I kind of made it so it was like, and it was the fuck ups party. I said, oh, it's the fuck ups party. We're just doing the fuck ups. Come over to hang out with the fuck ups. And then when Matt Stang and all his crew came over, they were like, oh, fuck cups, because they all the Cannabis Cup people came to my party, not realizing that it was the anti-Cannabis Cup party, because they were doing their thing. And I was like, you know what, fuck those guys, I'll do my own party. My friend had a club, we set it all up and did our own thing.
Wow.
And it was just hilarious because it was in red, white, and blue, of course, you know what I mean? So it was a white card with the red and blue letters. So it was kind of like a fuck you to the American Cup thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we had already done our job. And,
fuck cups.
And it was like me being all drunk and surly at my own party, like, fuck those guys, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was hilarious.
I mean,
But then I watch and I see new people getting involved and feeling all, butthurt over it. And I'm like, dude, just get used to it. It's like, that is the unfortunate problem of people whose baseline is based on advertising, which is what all magazines have to do. So they have to, be very fucking, they have to take care of their people. So you do see quickly, like, anything that's like supposed to be objective, if there's a underlying thing, which is like, who took the biggest ad? You know what I mean? Oh, look, double page spread in the back, the winner, you know what I mean? Magically, there's usually some thing involved. That's why, like, you got to kind of always look who's behind anything to see if it's something you want to get involved in. Like,
how do you think it's being run right now? Is it better?
Well, I mean, I think they just tried. Like I said, they just tried New Jersey. It was a complete failure. So the problem is that their staff that they had a really good moment in time where High Times was in a good place because of the people that worked there were all fucking in it.
What years were those? 80s,
Well, no, I think
70s?
no, I don't even know back then. I wasn't there, but like as far as from when I was dealing with them, I would say it would be like the early 2000s, because it was like when Danny was there and everybody, it was like a proper. So they moved their offices, and when they moved their offices, it all went kind of sour, because their first office that was like wasn't their first, it was probably their second or something. But that place, which it was funny because it was number 420 was on the that was the number of the building. It didn't, you're like, couldn't get more, you couldn't get more perfect, but it was like you came in and you'd smell weed already getting into the elevator. So it was like, even though they didn't, like people were in their cubicles, everybody was fucking, smoking, hanging out.
Where was it?
I can't remember the exact, in New York,
New
in the city,
okay,
in the city.
okay,
Yeah. It was like, I can't remember the exact address, but it was, it was funny because it was like super famous. All the, anybody delivering there knew what's up, and it was cool. But then they moved to a new spot, and it was like smaller cubicles, less fun, and and then and there was a bunch of changes there. There was one time too where this one guy took over, and it was kind of classic because it was after all those years of like, going through the highs and the lows and all the bullshit. And then there was a moment in time where a friend of mine who was one of our investors in HoodLamb, his best friend basically took over High Times, right? And so it was like, oh shit, he's taken over. But it was like the worst takeover because they tried to like neuter it, at the same time. They were like, we're not going to have any more weed on the cover.
Oh,
I was like, okay, that's not a good idea. You know what I mean?
A buddy of mine in Southern California went to school with the guy who's getting in trouble with some of the books from the last ownership of the High Times.
Oh yeah,
Cup. Yeah, I don't know. I can't recall his name, but yeah, we were looking into that when it was bought.
Oh, I'm sure there was. Oh my God, I would have.
It was like a wash. It was like a tax thing.
I can't even imagine what the books would look like.
It was like, we looked it up on chat, and it was like 45 million sales, and then, or no, like it was always under like 10 million.
The thing is, their distribution was never very big.
Yeah,
like it was really crazy. When you start to look, you're like, wait, so only 300,000? That's it? That's not a lot of magazines. If you start looking at numbers, you're like 300. But the thing about High Times that was always good.
Yeah,
it was always the most handed over magazine. Like you would get it and it would go 10 people deep, because it would always go like, can I borrow that? Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, give it to another guy.
I remember.
So like it's literally the most. It's one of the best magazines for longevity when it comes to like everything that's. They don't make a lot of them, but they get handed around a lot. So maybe they have
collecting value.
Well, not even that. Yeah, there's some collecting value. I have a shitload of them. Hopefully they'll be worth more one day. But there's in general, like it's just from an exposure point of view. Like if you were to take an ad out in High Times, you know that 10 people probably saw that ad individually compared to normal rag. You look, throw it away.
They do have good reach. Like
So-
they collabed on a post recently, and Jim Belushi started following me. I was like, yo,
Yeah, my
they
friend.
got some good reach.
Yeah, no, they definitely
But I
do.
would- yeah.
They definitely do, but they also got as like probably as much animosity. If you've been in the industry long enough, you've probably got an issue at some point. You know what I mean? So everybody out there, it's like it's not the name you want to name drop in the wrong place, because everyone, dude, those fucking, because everybody's got a story. Because the problem is that they did a lot of money grabs over the years. Like when I first came back to Colorado, or first came back to America and was in Colorado, in those first couple of years. So the funny part with the cup was, so when I had my spot over on 33rd and Larimer, so it was the when I had the HoodLamb, the second HoodLamb.
The indoor outdoor spot.
Not the one you went to, because that was the one after. So the one before that, and it was
Larimer,
yeah, it was like, and right now if you go down to Rhino and that area, you're like, oh my God, where am I? But at that time it was still pretty underground or whatever. And so I got a call from Matt Stang in 2014, I think, that cup. And it was like when they went to the Expo Center that first year there, he calls me up and he says, hey, you're in Denver, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, can you go check an address for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. Where is it at? He goes, 34th and Larimer or something like that. I'm like, well, I'm on 33rd in Larimer right now. Let me go outside. I walk out and I can see the corner of the building that they're going to have the cup in. I'm like, yeah, it's right there. I'm seeing it. So I'm like, this is, I was like, this is crazy, dude. The cannabis cup is following me right to my door, you know? So my bright idea, of course, is to do a 5-day I called it the Carnival, right? So it was 5 days. So it started on a Sunday and it went till Friday, and I rented circus tents. I had I had put like games and did the whole vibe. I went into this company here called Right Rentals place that does like every festival kind of thing. So I was like going in there. I need a fucking one of those things you hit that fucking goes out. I need one of these. Anyway, so we set it all up, and a fucking blizzard. I mean, blizzard that year on 420, like
Whoa.
The day before and all the way through the week. So I was like, I went from like, I had already spent 20 grand on everything. And then I spent another 10 grand on just propane, like for the next 5 days. Cause I was like, dude,
wow,
I cannot keep this place. I have a huge place with giant roll-up doors. I can't fucking keep it warm enough. I'm trying to block the whole day. Pretty much that whole week was me running around like putting out fires in ice form. Like standing in water. Like, oh god, this is a nightmare. You know what I mean? But in general, and then the next year after that, they did that one that was like the last cup that kind of happened, which was at the Denver Mart. Did you go to that one? Were you there for that?
I did go to that Denver Mart
and you could hear glass breaking everywhere. Like every time you hear it, because it was on that slanted.
Yeah, it was in a parking lot.
That was slanted. Uh-huh. So you had all this glass out there. It was hot as fuck.
I remember that.
And so it was a complete opposite. Like it was not the blizzard year. It was the hot as fuck year. Cali people were throwing pounds of weed at people, right? They had like 100 pounds in their booth, and then the MED was checking every local person and making sure they weren't even giving out a bomb, like a dab. So it was a real fuck up. It was like, and then they thought about doing it in Pueblo. Remember that was like on the books for a minute. They were like, we're going to do it in Pueblo. And we're like, absolutely do not do that. That will be the death nail 100%. Yeah. But it was really sad because there was a moment in time where you had that going on. You had the not Chalice, but was the other one that Grassroots? No, the Grassroots was doing also. They had their
Grassroots. Well, Chalice was pretty cool.
Yeah, but was Chalice here? No,
Chalice was in Cali.
The Cali one. No, but yeah. So I'm saying, but it was the same. It was Dougie, and it was Dougie and Grassroots doing stuff here, and they had their own 710 thing that they did. So it was like there was a moment in time where shit was popping, and I was like, you know what? If they had Denver as the yearly big cup, which makes sense because it's in the center of the country and it doesn't have the demographic, like Cali's too Cali. You know what I mean? New York didn't exist at the moment, so that wasn't even an option. And it seemed like they were going to do like a little satellite ones and then do the big one here. But then they lost once that one that with at the Denver Mart happened. And it was pretty much like
Pueblo was the next proposition.
Yeah, that just didn't. Yeah, they luckily avoided a humongous disaster there. But in general, then they kind of just lost interest in Colorado because too many rules, not enough, options, and other states were coming on. And the one thing you do realize in cannabis is that it's like when a new state comes on, it's exciting for there's the times are getting shorter and shorter. It used to be like a year. Now it's like a month. You know what I mean? If that, maybe a week. After a week, they're like already tired of it all. Oh, dude, it's too expensive. I like it, because everything's figured out. It used to be like, we have to work it out and figure it out. And the figuring out is actually when all the fun's happening because everybody's pushing everything in every direction, right? Now everybody knows the rules too much. They get, it's like the fact that there's not a lot of smoking places in the country, like it should be.
Yeah, there should be more bars. Like there's so many places to consume alcohol and nowhere to go and just socialize. And
it should literally be it should be like an option. Like, hey, you can either have alcohol or cannabis. What do you want to do?
Yeah,
and then
what's better for you?
And I think a bunch of places would be like, hey, I'm sick of fucking bunch of drunk people, and I'd love to just let people smoke.
Some pool tables,
and especially if you have
bar vibe, maybe some games.
And the key. Okay, so the biggest problem in this is the Indoor Clean Air Act, right? That's what fucks everybody up because if you have a business and you have employees, you cannot have people smoking inside your building, right? Because it's the employees that they're protecting. They're not protecting the public. Fuck the public. It's the employees because they're responsible. So like if you're working for me and I've got people smoking in there and you get cancer and decide to sue me, then there's a liability issue, right?
Okay.
But if you're
I gotta look into those laws.
but if you have, and this is like if you're open to the public, I mean, you're fine if you're just doing a studio. But if you're open to the public, like a bar, and you let people smoke, but nowadays, of course, because of the Clean Air Act, it makes it almost impossible. Because
do you think like air filter, like smoke eater things?
I mean, it would be smart, but the thing is, they don't give you that option. There's no which is crazy because you can have a cigar bar that you can walk into a room which is sealed and has good ventilation, and people are smoking fucking cigars in there, which is really bad for you. So I can't see why you shouldn't be able to take that exact license and just apply it to cannabis. I mean, that seems to be the most logical, especially because they already exist. I mean, there's smoking rooms in some of those like smoker friendly places I've seen. You know, they've got like a little room over here where you can go in there and try your tobacco if you want. It's like how come they can? It's crazy. But the thing is, like I said, they're protecting the employees. So theoretically, if you opened up a place.
But they can do it because I went to the first one years ago with the Grassroots guys, and it was like the first consumption lounge at some real dive dispensary bar thing, and you had to buy the weed in there and you could smoke it in there, and it was
it the joint? Was it at the joint?
Maybe it was at the joint.
You know what I'm talking about? The one over on the highway there?
Yeah,
right?
on the highway. It was real like
it's Russian owned. Yeah, Russian lady owns it.
Like you walk in, there's like the little thing. And
there's two places next to each other, right? Like you've got to go out and go back. You kind of got to go out the door, or is it inside? So the joint is over on right off of I-25 there.
Off of a highway. It was like in a kind of a real not great area.
Yeah, it sounds like the right spot. It's like it doesn't make any sense when you're there. You're like,
didn't have a great atmosphere. It was
No, and it's crazy too because it's like again, you really just have to. Stoners are the easiest people to deal with. I mean, just like have power, water, basic stuff that you need anyway to have a fucking establishment. Give them a spot. Fucking see, they'll take care of themselves. They'll self-moderate. They're not even. It's not like alcohol. Alcohol is like you're dealing with toddlers or something. They don't know what they're doing. They're loud, obnoxious, get worse and worse. You know what I mean? It's like that.
And if you had things that people would like after they get stoned, like real great food and munchies and whatever,
and that's the problem. Most of the things there's like this. You can't do this if you have this.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't serve food. It's like, why not? Like what are you talking about? And then like a lot of times it's like the food has to be pre-prepared off-site out of, this kind of a place. There's so many rules that once you like serving coffee, right?
That's right.
Coffee's real simple, right? Oh yeah, no, you can't have milk. Oh, you want to have milk? Totally different license. Can't have milk. You cannot put fresh milk into coffee legally unless you are licensed to do that.
That's wild.
You can only give people prepackaged little bullshit coffee things because the minute you open it up, like where's the temperature, who's putting it where, what's happening here, are you trained to pour milk into coffee?
So all the microplastic we get from everything.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst.
Fake milk is better for you.
But my idea, which I'll throw it out there because if anybody's got any time, energy, or whatever wants to do it, I've been preaching for years, is vending machines don't need any human beings in there at all. Have one security guard at the front checking IDs to make sure you're over 21 or whatever. And that's it. That's all you need. Everything.
Is that a loophole to get around the
I would think you should. Yeah. Clean Air Act.
Employees.
There's no employees.
Or you could get also one of those like Tesla bots.
Well, now we can. Yeah, exactly. Now we have it. Well, you could have them. You could have them do the basics. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, theoretically, I think that's the way to do it because it's about the employees, right? So,
really?
if you kind of do that.
And then what about food? Serving food.
I mean, so this is the funny thing too. Like, remember the one thing about Amsterdam, which the food was crap, right? But the delivery method of the wall food is actually kind of cool, right? Because if you're really drunk and you need to get something, you just go to the wall and throw some change in there and open it up and grab yourself a snack from the Fabo. You remember the Fabos?
Oh yeah, the burger spot.
Every single one of them, they have the automatic place where you put your money in.
Right.
So that style if somebody's behind there cooking good food and putting it in there, that'd be really, and you're stoned and you're like, oh yeah, look at that, by the way.
Ventilated kitchen.
And they're behind.
Atmosphere.
Exactly. They're behind there. They have nothing to do with our zone.
What do stoners want?
Exactly. And then you could do
grilled cheese sandwiches and all these different things.
Just fill them up.
Oh my God.
But something like that would work. I think that's kind of where.
That would be entertaining too. Like see what's coming out next. This guy's going to cook.
Or have one of those.
A bunch of donuts just come out. A little mad rush for the.
That's right. I
love that.
Yeah, it's hard, but the hardest part about doing any kind of consumption lounges is the zoning, the licensing, and the ability to make money besides because the thing is they like some of them they'll let you do micro sales, but then if you do that you're not allowed to bring your own weed in, which is ridiculous. Like for me, if you can't bring your own weed inside, there's no point in having this place because if it's you have to buy it there and you cannot take it out of there, that's the rules.
Yeah.
So it's like so like you're telling me I have to like I come in here, I have to buy it. They give you a tiny amount so that you can finish it all. But it doesn't seem like you're forcing me to like now I can't physically take it with me as a takeaway. Like that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? So
private maybe.
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, private is the only way to go.
The way to go. Yeah.
Private is the way to go, and in general, a lot of this stuff is like making your own. Well, this is kind of what I thought also back in the day when I was doing the CIA. It was like, you know what? There's no everything we're doing. There's no rules around it. Like no one's made the rules yet, so we'll just fucking keep pushing the boundaries. You know what I mean? And that's how we always did it until someone told us like, oh, is that really? I did not know that. You know what I mean? And oh well, sorry.
Yeah, well, they make it hard enough, man. Like it's. Yeah. And alcohol is just pushed everywhere.
Yeah,
there should be more options out there, I think.
Well, the cool part is that now like mocktails are becoming popular. People are starting to like make things.
Yeah, totally.
And there's a lot of sober bars out there now too, where they're just because they'll have kava and they'll have other stimulants.
Kava doesn't really do anything to you? I've heard that kind of.
Oh, it does. It does. I'm just saying they'll have other stimulants besides alcohol, and it's actually like okay, at least we're doing something, right? Because that is the kind of like I stopped drinking 9 years ago, and and it's like, but it does definitely put a damper on just knowing what to do, right? Because normally it's like
let's go get a beer.
So it's funny. I used to like I got famous because I mean, thing is I used to love drinking to the point where and only beer. I was never like into really heavy alcohol or anything like that, but I love beer so much, and I treated it a lot like cannabis, where I figured out what hops I liked. I started to zone in on it a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Like I'd come in anywhere I went, I had to try the beer. Like, let me try what you got? You got Mosaic hops? Oh, nice, it's my favorite. You know what I mean? So, and then that was when it got dangerous because I was like enjoying it too much at that point. And then. I did a peyote trip, and that was how I got out of that whole spiral without realizing I was in it. Just kind of like, got the message while I was doing, because it was a Navajo tribe, and they were, they knew we were all weed people because we had come. Our whole reason for doing the peyote ceremony was to protect cannabis from corporate greed, right? That was your
intention.
Yeah, our intent. So they were like, "This is cool, dude." Normally, it's like my uncle's dying, and I want to. It's like so. This is like weed. Fuck yeah! So everybody in there, and they were like the guy who was the fire that took care of the fire or whatever. He total grower. So everybody was excited and happy. But then they kind of got on one of our dudes about because he was he had walked into the place with a beer in his hand, and they're like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't bring a beer in here. Are you fucking kidding me?" He's like, "Oh, go put it back in the car." So they already were like, "We're gonna crack this kid," So they basically were on his ass about like, "Hey, if you're gonna be a weed guy, be a weed guy." You know what I mean? Because he was like, "I breed and I make CBD for kids," and they're like, "That's all good, but you're alcohol. Why are you drinking?" So they were talking to him, but it was coming to me. You know what I mean? And I was sitting there going like, "Oh, I think that makes sense. Like, fuck yeah, oh yeah." And then after that, it was the best part about it was the next day I went with him to this liquor store because he had to go I gotta get a beer, and when he went in there, I looked at every label and they all looked fake. They all looked like bogus. Like I could see something was wrong with they were too shiny and they were a little bit thicker than normal. Like just my perception was there. We're like, That's bad stuff right there. That's all fake. It's all lies and fake.
Wow.
And it was like nothing did it for me anymore. And then I stopped. That was it. I stopped drinking, which was very good. I was 48 too at the time. So I was like, you know what? Probably the good time to quit, because who wants to be, what good is it going to do me when I'm 50 years old pounding beers? Because you know how it is like you don't know it's happening, but when you are genuinely pissed off that you don't have 6 beers every day, like you have to have them, like there's a moment in time where, oh my God, panic, I've only got 3 beers left, I better go to the liquor store now, and then know exactly where the liquor store is that has the beer you like and what time they're open till. And you know what I mean? It was like too much in my brain was like,
how self-aware, man, like to catch that before.
Yeah, and it was good.
What day you did that on? And like
March 3rd, I believe it was.
March 3rd.
Yeah. So it was just one of those weird ones where it was like, because I thought I was going to an Aya ceremony, right? So originally my guy's like, yeah, you want to do ayahuasca? And I'd never done it. So I was like mentally preparing for that and getting all like, oh God, it's going to be heavy.
What was peyote?
And then they go, oh dude, we're doing peyote. And I'm like, that is nothing. Like, so in my brain, it was like, I set myself up perfectly by doing that, because I kind of get, it's going to be nothing. So then I, instead of like holding back, I was like, and then, they gave us, so we had to prepare it all ourselves with them, so we're preparing it all. So it's fresh, dried, and tea. So it comes around in rounds. So you're doing the fresh, then you do the dry, then you do the tea, then you do the fresh, then you do the dry, then you do the tea, and you keep doing it. And around the third, like the first round came around, and I was like, oof, this is not even fun. Like this stuff, like this is kind of, like it gives you like there's no like blast off. It's not like, DMT or something. It's like, it's literally like, I started to figure out after about 6 or 7 hours, I was like, dude, this is like doing speed with a bunch of bikers almost, because it's like, who's going to go down first? That was like in my brain of what was happening. You know what I mean? It was like, it just had this whole like, oh, this is more like hanging out with your homies and waiting for someone to pass out so you could fuck with them, because that's what the vibe I was getting off of it, because everybody was deep in it and kind of watching everybody. And then my friend was being real lame and kind of, my back hurt. I had a skateboard accident. My back hurts, some bullshit. And they were like, just, like they were like, I could see them judging a little bit, like, come on, dude, you got to like stay. It's about staying the course, and next round comes around, staying the course. And the funny part is that he kept taking double doses in the beginning, thinking, like, this shit sucks. This is no, he was like, doing all, like basically setting himself up for a fall almost, and at a certain point he just walked out of the ceremony. He's like, oh, my back hurts too much, I gotta go. And they were like, you pussy. Like you could just tell, like there was kids in there that do it, you know what I mean? It's like, come on. Yeah, I mean, they do
kids do peyote?
Oh yeah.
How old?
10, 11. Really? Yeah. And they'll give them light doses of it. Won't go deep, but they start young. They start them young. But it was like, it was cool. Like I said, it was cool because I didn't plan it. It just happened. And then my wife was like, followed suit and was like, this is the best thing we ever did, perfect. That's
amazing. So how long does that last?
Peyote, the peyote thing?
Yeah.
It's like 14, we did like a 14-hour thing. And then, but the funny part too is at the end of it all, I was exhausted, right? Everybody else kind of like came up at the end. Like they were like at the end, I was just like, because so much had happened in such a short time in my mind, even though it wasn't like intense ever. It was just like I was kind of like, because I had another friend too. He was waiting for some visuals and there was really none, it wasn't like, you ever do mescaline? Back in so mescaline's similar too, where it's a different trip. It's not the psychedelic trip that you're thinking of when you think of psychedelics, whereas like if you take acid or you take mushrooms, you pretty much are going to get visuals if, unless it's some bunk shit, but normally you'll get at least something. Whereas with this, it was like, I was staring in the fire, like waiting, come on, something happened. But then it was all mental shit that was like, okay, all right, now I get it.
Really?
And then later, like I said, it kind of like, people go, when you smoke enough weed, you smoke yourself straight, where you kind of go full circle. Like you don't get, like in the beginning, you'd be like, wow, I'm really high. And then all of a sudden, like you're just straight again. You're like, this is it. It's kind of the same thing happened there. not for me as much. I was like kind of physically down, so I was like, I'm just gonna go lay down. And then I listened to everybody like in full like jibber jabber mode. I was like, you guys been up for 14 hours doing peyote, and everybody's this fucking amped. But you know, that's
people are just talking about what they're thinking.
Well, you know what? It was really funny. It was the exact feeling of coming out of a rave. Right.
Oh, at like 6 a.m. when the sun's just coming out.
Yeah, and you're with all your friends, and you're like kind of like
got the goosebumps a little bit.
Exactly. It was the same thing. And then there's people who are fucking like had the best night of their life. You know what I mean? And that vibe kind of comes around because everybody's like, dude. And because everybody's quiet when it's happening, right? It's just all internal.
It's like a ceremony.
Yeah. There's many steps to the ceremony, and there's protocol, and they, you know, everything's for a reason. And then at the end, everybody's kind of let cut loose, you know. And then during that cut loose moment, I was like, this is so like I was kind of like half asleep, but listening to everybody, and I was thinking to myself like, yeah, this feels like exactly like after raging all night doing MDMA or partying or whatever, and you're just buzzing still, but you're not high anymore, you know what I mean? But now you're like,
you hear the birds chirping.
Oh yeah, no, it was awesome. It's good times. That was down in New Mexico too, which was good setting.
Can I try one more of these flavors before the night is over?
Yeah, for sure. You want to try that one? That's the RBK right there.
That's the RBK? Sure.
It's fucking, I was just thinking about how resiny it is. So here, you can, if you want to stick that on the end, if it's.
Oh, what's that?
Little filter. Just stick it right in there. Yep.
Okay.
And then that way it should be lit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, dude.
And then I'll give you something else on the way out.
So what do you do with all this weed that you grow?
Normally I'm doing seeds, so it's mostly hash in the end, and it's more just because it's able to be stored longer and not really have a sort of outlet or anything like that. And then, you know, what's funny is I've just noticed recently that like so many people like haven't seen good weed in a long time, and it's just crazy because I'll be like,
I'll trade you whatever you want in here for some of this weed.
Oh, that's why I brought so much weed. I was like, hey, I'm going to somewhere where I know they could always trade me with something. So
it's so good. It's like just the perfect cure right now. It's sticky. Like
I make sure right now this is about Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So 18 days.
That's like the perfect amount, right?
So it's 18 days, and I just put it from hanging. Like it hasn't really been sitting. I haven't done any of that yet. I just literally took it, put it in the jar yesterday, and then last night. And I was like, well, if I leave it overnight, it'll won't be too, you know, it will fucking even out. And it was funny because as I was driving up here, I couldn't help myself. I was like, all right, pull them out, open the thing, like open one or two, like. Okay, they smell great. You know what I mean? All right, it's all perfect. Because you know pretty much like if you open up the top and it's really fresh and it does any kind of like kind of noises or something, you know you're got a lot of off gassing still going in there. So they didn't do that, which is good. Oh. And it's like.
So how many times did you like burp them before?
No, I mean I literally put them in last night, and that's why I was nervous on the way. I was like, I better double check these before. And I opened up one or two, and I was like, nah, they seem pretty much on point. Well, the thing about Colorado is it's so easy to fuck up that you want to you want to try to steer it on a little bit of caution helps a lot.
Side.
Yeah, like I have humidifiers in my dry room, which most people don't think about, and I'm like, you have to. Like if you don't do that right now, if you don't do that nowadays, then you just keep that. It's yours. Okay. And then I keep mine. It's like,
nice.
See, it's very
cootie control.
Exactly. We call it hippie lip. You know, hippie lip save you from the dreaded hippie lip. You don't want that.
Oh no.
You know, it's like the worst thing is when you're in a circle with people and you look over and you're like, oh my god, dude, who's this guy with like a giant cold sore coming over to hang out with you? And you're like, you can keep it now. Thank you very much. I don't want that back.
No, that's why like joint holders could be practical. You make some.
Well, so the kid who
shove the joint in.
Yeah. So this is the kid who made this Yo Tips. Shout out to Yo Tips.
Like bamboo?
No, they're made from birch.
Oh, birch.
And the thing is, birch is super fast growing. So you can do a birch farm, like do a birch tree farm, and they'll grow within a year. Boom, pop up, bang, you harvest. So they're very quick to grow, easy to harvest, very soft. It's got a really nice feel too when you bite on it. It's got just a little bit. glass is the problem with glass is I
teeth
feel like they like if you come up too quick and tap your tooth, you're like, ow, that kind of that could be a little dangerous there, and you can't really like bite on it. Like this one, you could be like doing something.
Totally.
Like
so does he sell packs of them or something?
Yeah, we'll get you hooked up. He is so the kid who invented it. He has he's quadriplegic, but he's got like a C4 compression or something. So he was in a car accident when he was 16. So loved smoking weed, and then during COVID, this is like maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago when that all happened. But during COVID, his doctors were like, dude, you cannot share a joint with anybody. You know, and he was like, that's the only thing I live to, that's like keeps me alive. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, you cannot, you're compromised if you get COVID, you know what I mean? So he got really like bummed about it. And then he started thinking about, well, what if I made like a thing where I have my own filter and you have your own filter, and we just pass the joint, but we don't actually touch the joint, like a condom almost for your mouth, right? And he sort of, and him and his dad worked on it. This is like the 4th iteration, and they kind of figured out exactly how to get it so that the smoke vortex is a little bit too as you're hitting on it.
Wow.
And it's like the taste is better. Like what this is really good for too is if you have any pre-rolls that kind of don't hit good because they're too tight. A lot of times pre-rolls are always like shitty to hit. This kind of gives that little air gap, which just like when you're going, you know, and you give yourself an air gap. It's like kind of does it for you. And you'll notice that weed, I say it tastes better because it tastes clean. Like it just has it hits better, you know?
Yeah, what a great product, dude. Yeah. These are awesome.
And there's big ones.
Is this the company right here?
Yep. Yo Tips.
Yo Tips?
Yeah. Yo Tips LLC.
Yo Tips.
on
shout out Yo Tips.
On Instagram. Yeah. And like I said, spinal cord, 10% going to spinal cord research, which is awesome. And just like in general for cannabis cups. So we call it the cannabis cough, you know, which you always get, right? You go to the cup, you come home, you're sick, pretty much. So if you keep that, and we've done many, many trade shows where it's like, you know, all our friends come home sick, especially during COVID. It was this is fucking.
Same with the last shows, like the wood cough. Dude.
Exactly, the wood cough, exactly. And it's real. There's no doubt about it. Like I've seen people get
super spreaders, dude. Big time.
And it's like, you know, I mean, and I don't like silicone. Like I hate when they have those like silicone things.
This is natural.
It feels good.
Perfect. I really like it. Now that you explained it,
the thing is, there's so many tips out there now because everybody's doing doinks and pre-rolls and all sorts of stuff. So there's, you know, it's become, people still like, I'll show it to people and they'll be like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, no, there's more to, it's not because people think you roll it into the joint, which I get it. That's normal. But just the fact that it's like a little bit more smart. It's always funny too, because you'll be in a group and you'll hand it to people and there'll be a little bit of awkwardness for the first or second. And then it hits them and they're like, dude, this thing's fucking amazing. And then everybody loves it. And you're like, okay, just have to get over that first hump, because you'll get a little confused.
It's a condom for your joint.
Because people get nervous because they get confused because they're like here and you're like, no. And then like, oh, it's that little confusion moment. But then once the confusion is over, it's a simple thing.
This is a great product, dude. I think it's really crucial for those pot events too. Like
it should be mandatory at all medical places, because I mean, if you're selling to medical patients, you should be just
promoting healthy smoking.
You buy a joint here, take this, so that way in case you're with a group of people, boom, here you go. Yeah,
it's a great product.
There you go.
What else, man? So I hit that hard, like airy. So how long have you been doing the Adam Dunn Show?
So we started in 2013. So it's been 13 years.
Okay.
This is actually a funny year because it's 13 years on the podcast, 33 years with TH Seeds. So a lot of threes, which is a good thing. We love threes, but yeah, 13 years on this podcast, and it started off as a Wednesday. We did a thing called CD Wednesday, and it's funny. I have a few people that still listen to the show now that were there during that time period, and they kind of watched the whole thing develop. And if you watch those, they're still online, and it's quite funny. Like my first guest was, do you know Mountain Man? You ever heard of him?
Mountain Man.
He used to do the Fimo torches back in the day, back around 2000, and when I started around 2013, he was famous for doing those fucking ridiculous snake dabs of like 10-gram dabs and 15-gram dabs. Remember that?
I
remember
can't
that?
keep up with it.
Remember
If he was one of the OGs,
oh yeah,
respect to him.
Yeah, he was definitely one of those guys. And it was funny because I had another guy on the show who did a 40-gram dab, right? And he was on he was at the Connoisseur Cup, and I was there when he did it. It was at that that spot that they have the outdoor fountain and stuff. I don't even know that one I'm talking about. In Lakewood, there's that one spot which is like a wedding place, and it's like done. It's a really nice spot, but it was like one of those deals where I saw the guy do it, and then I like looked up and I saw the alarm thing or the fucking smoke detector right above and I could see the column of smoke going up
towards it,
and it was like. And then it just a little delayed reaction, but it was that big one. It wasn't it's the one that goes to the fire department. The fire department comes directly, like no fucking around. Ooh. It's not the internal one where it's like, oh, so go hit the button.
That was like time stopped for a second. And you saw it coming.
Oh yeah, and it was like, and the crazy part is that the video's out there, and we had him on the show. And he played the video, and it was like everybody in the room was there when it happened, and we all have PTSD from that sound because it just it's felt like we were right back there because when it happened, it was funny because there was my friend's band was playing, so the band is the last people to leave the building pretty much because we got to break this. And the lady who owned the place was out screaming because it was the second time the alarm went off on the same day, and it's like then they start charging you money for like the fire department came out twice. They're gonna be pissed the second time, so she already knew that she's gonna have to probably pay plus, and then she was over it. She was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" So everybody was leaving, and there was like hundreds of people there, and we were the last ones to leave, and it was like, it was the pain and suffering because it was like once I heard the alarm, I was like, dude, this is crazy. I'm having a flashback.
It happened twice at that event?
Twice at the same event. So it was like the first time was
pissed.
oh yeah, for sure. But
you were there to take all the last of it.
Exactly, because we were the last ones to clean up and get our like stuff. We're like, we're just the band, man. I wasn't in the band, but I was just like, dude, we're with the band. We don't have nothing to do with this guy smoking the stuff. But yeah, it was. But yeah, the show's been really good because it's like, as you can tell, I got a lot of stories to tell. So
legendary.
And I try not to. That's why I love coming on other people's podcasts because even though I might have told some of these little things here and there, it's like I can't. My main focus is to not sit around talking about myself the whole time because I like to have guests. And I tried the solo shows a few times, for a while there, and I realized, it's that's why I kind of have a little bit more. My setup is a little bit more like morning zoo show in the sense I've got Dave. I've got my partner Dave on the show now. I've got Katie on the show. I've had rotating people on. I had Murphy Murray.
Co-hosts.
Yeah, I had Murphy Murray back in the day. I had Mitch back in. I've had multiple people come through.
Yeah.
And part of it is like, we are all there to have fun every week.
Awesome.
It's live every week, so there's no editing. Which like when I watch other podcasts, I'm like, wow, they got their production. Like you guys kill it with your lighting is awesome. Your shots are great. And I'm like, there's been so many shows where I've had like the fucking camera falls off the wall during the show or the thing. And I love it because I think it's hilarious. You know what I mean? Like the lighting rig falls or the fucking thing breaks but it's, we just kind of roll through. And the key is for me is I treat it a little bit like it's not it's a performance in the sense of like when we're done, mic drop, we're out of here. You know what I mean? There's no and now the work begins, because I know my people and all the people that work around me, they love doing the show. They hate to do anything after, there's no, we're going to sit around. And so right now, Vinny is doing a great job. He's gone back and we have we're like 600 plus shows, and he's gone back and he's doing all the SEOs for every show. And he's like, well, no wonder we're not ever getting any views on this. There's zero. There's nothing. We don't even have our names in the SEO, nothing, zero. There's a bunch of them that are like that. Then there's a bunch of them that have every word you shouldn't have as the thing. It's like weed, bong dab, you know what I mean? It's like, oh God, this is the worst.
Doing that.
So
you got to change it. And
so now it's but it's crazy because AI has changed everything where it's just you can ask, you can feed the AI all your shows, and it will evaluate things and tell you what you did wrong, and these keywords suck, and don't do that, and this is a bad word. So it's like, okay, this is now it's starting to happen, but it's always been for us a little bit like, because we also know that we can't really monetize a lot of the stuff we're doing because we start the show by smoking. We're fucking, we're talking about weed all the time. We've never shied away from anything. So it's like, and like, they're like, well, okay, here's the deal. You can't swear or smoke or do anything for 30 seconds. Plus you got to do this. And then you got to say the name of this person on the show. And you have to do this. And you have to do that all within this time, or else they're going to boot you off to the side and no one's going to watch you. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, this is explaining a lot of like why we, we'll have certain shows that'll have 17,000 views, and we'll have certain shows that have 300 views. You know what I mean? It's not as consistent as many other ones.
Because YouTube just blocks you? Or
doesn't optimize. We don't have any optimization ever. And what's really funny though is like, okay, so there's Adam Dunn, the baseball player too, right?
Oh, is there?
Yeah, and he's real famous. So when people hear my name, many times they think it's the baseball player, right? And so I think for a little while we were like skirting around for a while because we were getting 250,000 views, a month. And I was like, dude, these numbers are fucking outrageous, right?
Yeah.
And so it went, and then we had Cheech and Chong on the show together.
Whoa,
and we were like, oh,
huge.
We're going to blow up, dude. This is it. Patting ourselves on the back. Fell off a cliff. All our numbers fell off a cliff. The next time we were down to 60. Went from 250 to 60. I was like, that's a huge drop. What the fuck happened here? And, obviously don't know exactly what went wrong, but I think the problem was that we streamed through, we did our show live on their, so the show we had was also shown on their network. And I think that before we were on their network, I think we were in this golden period of somebody just thought we were a baseball guy, and then they pumped us up to the top because we were killing it. And then they figured out, oh, wait a minute, Cheech and Chong. Wait, that is not that baseball player. And then we got,
really?
I
would think Cheech and Chong would be like, oh, this guy knows baseball players.
No, and I think what happened was the fact that we went through their network, that somehow it triggered something.
Flagged you and blocked you, restricted you.
Something happened because it was really crazy after that. And I was like,
that sucked how all that shit works like that.
Yeah, and it was like
Spotify, I guess, doesn't really care, and they have video now.
What's weird about Spotify, I've never signed up for them, and so there's only one show of ours on there for some reason. I don't even know why it's up there, but I think there's one show somebody uploaded at one point, but it's we're not. So we have about 9 different platforms that we're on right now. So
what are they? Video too?
Well, we use Restream. And then Restream puts us on we're on Twitch and all these channels that I wouldn't really normally think about, but I think so. And again, we're kind of all right, I guess if we're gonna be doing this for real, we better get more serious and try to take it to the next level, because it's also really hard with cannabis related things to get the ROI for your sponsors if you're working with sponsors. And if you don't work with sponsors, you better be making lots of money that you don't need sponsors, which is not where we're at this moment. So it's we're always kind of and I also want to showcase things because I'm growing. So I'm using a lot of products. I'm like, hey, this is a great way to help everybody out. So Build the Soil has been one of our best sponsors for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Jeremy's always been with us since day one. Then we have James Bean from Seeds Here Now. He's been a really good sponsor for a long time. So we've got a few rock steady ones, and then we have products that we love, like Terp Wipes. I don't know if you know Terp Wipes. So that's somebody you should also. So it's ethyl alcohol instead of isopropyl alcohol, which is way better for your banger and stuff. So people don't realize that isopropyl is not good for glass and or your humans. You know what I mean? It's just not good.
Is it toxic or something? Or?
Yeah, well, on.
I won't open this, but
you can keep them here. Yeah. But they're just great because they're smart. And it's food grade, because you're going to be, if you're cleaning out a banger with something that's not food grade, and then
it absorbs in your skin and shit.
And again, I'm sure you notice with glass, it does sort of age stuff. If you're constantly soaking, people who do these dunks all the time, after a while, this stuff is kind of, it does seem,
jazzes out a little bit.
I believe so. Yeah, it seems like it ruins the finish a little bit, and in general, smart. These are thicker, and they're just way like when you're using
just the right amount of alcohol. Sometimes it's like way too much,
Right, and the other the thing is what's really cool with terp wipes too is like you'll use it to clean one thing, and then you'll be like, dude, I am not wasting this. And you start looking around and you're like, oh yeah, I'll get a little thing. And I'm the worst, I'm like a classic. Everywhere I go, there's some dab residue or something left over. Man. So there's always something to clean, you know what I mean? No matter what, so yeah, they've been great sponsors. Basically over the years, it's like I realized, I can't make money off of numbers and commercials because my show cannot. You would have to I'd have to
ban your content so you could like do that on YouTube.
And also there would be commercials popping up in the middle of my show and everybody would leave, because that's,
really?
I have a 3-hour show. So if you have a 3-hour show and it's live and you have commercials every 20 minutes because they want to make money off of you, you'll quickly lose your real people, and you'll have to go much more, and you'll have to adjust for.
Do you think I should stop monetizing off of YouTube? Because I don't think I make anything off of it.
I don't know. If you're making money, I would say definitely keep making money, but I don't know how.
We're not, and
it's
just someone we should.
Does it give you?
I think we should put like the minimum amount in.
Yeah, it's just weird because I never signed up knowing that I would just probably get banned anyway. So I'm always like, you know what? I'd rather work directly with sponsors that I can get I can see the feedback and I can work with them, and I can make them. So like for instance, Ozo, which is a coffee brand. So Ozo is in Boulder. He's got 5 stores.
Ozo. Okay, cool.
And so we have a discount code with them, which is for the online stuff. You can't do it in the store, but if you're ordering online. And for instance, in the first, I believe it was not over a year, but a little under 2 years, but it was about $45,000 in sales for him.
Extra from the promo code?
From the promo code.
Well, that's amazing.
So I was feeling...
What is the promo code? Let's shout it out.
That is Done Deal 25.
Done Deal 25?
Yeah, but I think they have to change it to 26. They haven't quite done it yet, but at the moment, yes, everything's always Done Deal. It keeps it easy.
Done Deal.
Yeah, because if
DUNN Deal.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, but in general, yeah, Ozo's been awesome because as a podcaster, I feel like you have to have a coffee sponsor. It's almost like mandatory.
Oh, I got it.
Comes to the territory, And then let's see who else we got. We got we work with Holos Health, which is for people who want to go either for psychedelic journeys and or get your cannabis medical card. Cool. Dr. Joe Cohen, Joe Cohen? You ever heard of Dr. Joe? He's like one of the original guys who out here who really
got people licenses.
He was one of the guys that was out there when they were doing campaigns and going from spot to spot, and he was awesome. So him and Dave, who's my co-host of the show, they were doing the on-site stuff back in the day, but we have him in there, and we always try to, we're only working with people that we would appreciate, and they appreciate us, we appreciate them. Whereas if you're doing for monetizing it, it's like, it's great if you can do, I'm shocked when I see some people, how much money they're making. They're doing $40,000 a month off of and they're just doing ridiculously lame content, which is this is mindless dribble right here. It's like, Jesus, I don't know if I can lower myself to doing that, but somehow they're crushing it, So,
wow.
So it's because they don't mind a commercial, because their stuff is again, it's just formulative stuff that connects. So with cannabis, it's hard.
I'm learning from all of you guys, you, Yola, I just went on my own little tour of podcasts and just kind of learning and seeing how people are doing it. But it's very interesting. And you must be one of the oldest, if not the oldest cannabis podcast out there.
I mean, if I stick around long enough, I will be. That's what I always figured out from the beginning. When we did the first hemp store in Europe, it was funny because I had all these people coming around trying to dethrone us, you know what I mean? And I was well, then they're all gone now, you know what I mean? So it doesn't even matter because we stick the longest. And that's one thing I've always been really good at is staying consistent and being on because in Amsterdam, we had a store open to the public long before there was, even though it was just a hemp store, obviously we were in the industry as far as you could be, because I could send people to go smoke my weed at this shop or that shop or whatever. But in general, it was having that open door policy and having people be able to come and go whenever they want was kind of unheard of as far as in the States, at least. And now it's like a standard thing. Every state's, almost every state's got it. Wow. People are getting kind of bitter and over it. And you know what I mean? It's like you go to places like Oklahoma where it's only been 5 years, but you guys are already tired and everybody's already beat down. And you know what I mean? It's like they realize it's very hard to be consistent with cannabis year after year after year after year. You know what I mean? Because that is like from a grower's point of view, it's really hard. From running a business, it's even extra hard because you're dealing with all these hoops and things you got to deal with that nobody's even thought of ahead of the game. They're like, oh.
Do you think legalization has helped or hurt the industry?
Both, I think, and it's kind of a little bit of both. I think descheduling is the only way right now. If they can do that, like that's the cool part is we're still haven't, like everybody's all nervous about them changing all the rules again, once again. Like from the seed point of view, it's pretty lame because we were like, what are you talking about? Like now we're going to have to can't send seeds across state lines. Like this is crazy. So like they're going to go backwards in that world and that isn't helping. But if they deschedule cannabis in general and start treating it like tomatoes and anything else, which is where we're kind of at because we're putting ourselves into knots when it comes to like, well, you can't do that if this is not federally legal and you can't do that. There's a lot of things that just don't work because of the federal situation and the state law. So basically they should just let the states do what the states want to do, and the federal law should be a complete descheduling, and let the states or that way it would take all that pressure. And then we could work, there could be interstate commerce. The states that don't grow good weed can just buy it from Cali or from whoever, you know what I mean? And the ones who do, so it would make things the way they should
Utah
be.
can just stay illegal or whatever.
I don't know. Utah has medical though.
Oh, do they?
I believe so. Yeah, they have.
I always get worried about driving there.
No, they have medical because what you can do if you have a medical card, this is like a little tip for Utah, is you can say, hey, I'm driving through Utah on this day, and they will give you like a temporary Utah
so
clearance.
No,
you can't burn. You cannot burn. No, but you could definitely.
If you had some with you.
Yeah, you could say, I'm going from here to.
Who do you call? Just
they're like version of the MED, I guess, whatever that is. But I mean, that totally would make me hella nervous. I don't think I would ever
flag yourself.
Yeah, it's like, how can I dry snitch myself?
I'm coming through this road at this time.
Hi, I'm dry snitching myself.
Police escort, please.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the thing I would be doing, but
they catch your ass for speeding. They'd be like, "Oh, he's speeding."
Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, if we're gonna get him for something, right?" He's already not getting for that. But in general, yeah, it's like that to me is I'm a little bit nervous when it comes to telling the man exactly what I'm up to, So.
Bro, I know you break records with your 24-hour podcast.
It's fine.
And that's something else, but it's really great to connect with you, and hopefully maybe next season we can have you back and we can
for sure. I'm totally down.
We're so close, and maybe I want to check out your space. And
obviously I'll have you on my show. First.
Yeah, I would love to.
That's the first thing we'll do, and then we can work from there. We can do a reserve special.
Oh yeah, let's shout out the reserve too, because that spot is going to be sick, and we're.
It's fun to watch the evolution of the next cool thing in Denver, because the thing about Denver that I loved when I first came here, I told you earlier, is that it was 300 days of sun after living in Holland for 300 days of grayness every year. But it was also the fact that like when it's still a small town. It's a big city, but it's a small town. And once you are in with the right people here, you kind of figured, like when I first came here, it was like people were still super excited. And my first HoodLamb spot that we had like River Rock and Pink House and all the different big players hanging out after work at our spot. And it was really like a neutral ground, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what was cool. That's what I think the reserve is going to become, which is like a neutral ground for high-end people who aren't, not, even though they might be competitive in life, because most of us are. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with cannabis, is that sometimes the cups also proved this to me very early in my thing, which was like, we're all friends all year long. And then the cup comes around and we're all like, fuck this guy and fuck that guy. And like, I would of course give Arian shit for all year round. So it didn't matter. Like that was a normal thing.
Yeah.
But in general, there was a lot of time, because what would happen is during the cup is there'd be like, there's not enough good weed anywhere right? And so the minute that there's a competition and there's thousands of people showing up, everybody's looking for the best weed. And all of a sudden, like, you saw these like little behind the scenes things happening, and you'd be like, well, I already know this guy didn't grow this weed. Like, where did this come from? Oh, so now you're working, you know? So it was like all that was happening every year. And we were always on our own little island and independent or whatever. But there was many people who would like see the formula and be like, next year we're going to do that. We're going to get the American guy who's going to come over with all the good weed, and he's going to win for us. You know, that's how it always usually worked. So it's kind of crazy to watch. It's happening, you know, everywhere there's weed, there's always going to be that competitive edge. So just got to tap in on it, and then, like I said, the reserve will be the where all the winners are hanging.
That's right. The best of the best.
The best of the exactly.
Showcasing it, spreading the love.
Right,
know?
And then at a certain point, there is no competition, and once you're at a certain level with everybody, it's just like, and well, there's always the thing. There's one thing I always tell everybody is like, if I'm at a party and somebody else pulls out weed that's better than mine, I will probably put all my weed away and just shuffle away and be out of there, because for me it is we have always, you know, amongst us in our own way, we're all competitive, you know what I mean? Because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And I'll leave you with a bunch of weed so you can tell me.
Well, I'm gonna leave you with some glass too, but,
all right, let's
hey man, we'll do this again. This definitely broke the record. We're officially going into 4 hours here.
Just 20 more to go.
Oh shit. Well,
thanks a lot, Matt. It's been really cool.
Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for coming, man. I'm going to tune in more to the Adam Dunn Show. It's on YouTube and all platforms. Everybody check it out. Every Friday, 4:20 to 7:10. Oh, sick. You know. Catch me on it soon. And we'll definitely, I mean, I didn't even get past the first page of my question sheet. So like,
we can ask him when you come on my show. We'll do a reversal show.
Perfect.
You know.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much, brother.
All right,
you got great weed and great stories, and I look forward to connecting with you more.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you, guys. Later. All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Robertson Stash Podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to support us, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, we want to hear from you. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. Hit the website, hit the link. We'll see you next time.